Welcome to the Scuba Goat Podcast with Matt Waters. Let's dive right in.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Have you done podcasts before?
Yeah, well, during COVID, when we never stopped printing the magazine fully. There was a couple of times when we stopped for a couple of months when it was full lockdown and nobody could get out. But otherwise, we pretty much kept going. But as a way of trying to be still involved with the readership and our audience, we started doing some live broadcasts. So what we did was we'd record them and people could actually watch it live when we were doing the interviews, but then we'd record them at the same time and then we'd put them on YouTube. So they were quite good fun. So it was like, usually we did them on a night and everybody was sat there with beers and wines and rums and everything. I was talking to people like Mesley and stuff like that. It was trying to keep it clean. It was quite amusing. It was like, I had to keep reminding everyone, remember, this is live. So we did some really good ones actually with that. We did one-on-ones like this, and we had some where it was me talking to, like, there might have been two of them. I think one time we did it when there was three of them, and that really got out of hand. Yeah, it was good fun though.
Yeah, I love it. I've had a fair few now where it's been evening time and having a few beers, and yeah, Mesley, surprise, surprise. We had a good couple of hours talking, and I think one in Australia, one in New Zealand. We both got 3 parts pissed. It was great fun.
Yeah, no, he's a good lad. I'm really excited about having him at the show. He's proper stoked about being there. So
yeah, no, it'd be good. I keep having to think about it. I to be honest, I haven't got a fucking clue what I would talk about for you on stage or anything like that. But I'll keep thinking about it.
Yeah, like I said, there was no pressure. If you're not, we'll just have you in a corner and we'll just podcast central. But at least it was there. If you have we've got time anyway. If you suddenly have a bright spark moment and you're like, oh, I've got a great idea, actually, it would be. Then we'll find somewhere for you. But otherwise, we'll just aim to have a corner for you, and then we can just do interviews and all sorts of stuff with different people over the weekend. That'd be really good, I reckon.
Yeah, it'd be good fun. I enjoyed it when we did it down at T-Dex. It was a cracking laugh. Okay, right. Well, first off, mate, I think what we should do is just let everybody know who you are and what you're about and where you come from.
It feels like I'm in a Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, really, then, doesn't it?
Yeah. You'll get a token at the end of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Right, yeah, so I'm Mark Evans. I am one half of Rork Media Limited, and we do various things in the diving world. So we do the Scuba Diver magazines, which we've got one in the UK, we've got one in Australia, New Zealand, and we've got one in North America. And we also do an annual called the Ultimate Diver's Guide. And then we branched out and we launched the Go Diving Show in the UK. And we're now doing the Go Diving Show in Sydney in Australia in September. And we also have the Scuba Diving YouTube channel. And we also have 2 websites. So we've got the Scuba Diver website and we've also got the DiverNet website, which has been around since 1996. So that's nice. One of the longest standing websites. So yeah, so we have lots of different things, but basically Dive Media is all encompassing. We've been in business since February 2017. Mm-hmm. But before that, I was the editor of Sport Diver UK for nearly 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Quite a long time in the diving industry. I think I'm coming up about 26 years now. As a dive magazine editor, editorial director. But actual diving, I've been diving for 40 years because I started when I was 10.
Wow. Yeah, it's a damn sight longer than me, mate.
That's why I've got no hair. See, I reckon that's what it is. It's wearing all them hoods, diving in cold water.
Yeah, I was going to say, Stony Cove, a local favourite, is it?
Yeah, I have done quite a few dives in Stony Cove. Tend to go to Capernwray now is my closer one. But it's cool for a quarry. They've got giant mutant trout in there. Because there's no fishing allowed, these trout are ancient, so they've all got like twisted backs, cataracts. They're just gigantic. There's huge sturgeon in there and everything, so they all come looming out of the gloom at you. So it makes a bit of a change.
A fair one. I've never done that one, to be honest. Obviously, I started in the UK, but it wasn't long after training that I buggered off overseas and never came back.
But you see, trying to escape cold water is one thing, but just moving to another country, that's going a bit over the
top. Well, I really couldn't get much further away, could I?
No.
Yeah, happy days. So, how did it all start with Rork Media then? What drew you to doing the editorial bit?
Right. So where we ended up doing that was, like I said, I was the editor for Scuba Diver magazine, but that was working for a publishing company, and then that title ended up getting closed down through no fault of its own. It was kind of collateral damage to other things that were happening out there, and so suddenly that was it. January 2017, found myself without any warning out of a job. So it was a little bit like, oh, what do you do? You know, massive shock. And then Ross Arnold, who's my business partner in Rork Media, he was my ad manager. So we'd worked together on Sport Diver for, I think, 10, 11 years. And we pretty much ran it like our own magazine. We were under a publishing director and everything, but they kind of left us to it. And all the time people have been saying to me, you should do your own magazine, you're the face of the magazine, and this, that, and the other. But we never wanted to launch against Sport Diver because we brought Sport Diver up from where it was to being like, you know, one of the major players in the UK diving market. But now it had gone, there was a gaping hole there. And we were like, well, now if we're ever going to do it, now's the time to do it. So we basically set up and we didn't miss a month. So the last issue of Sport Diver came out in February and the first issue of Scuba Diver came out in March. And we were very lucky. Vast majority of the people who we worked with for years through Sport Diver, they just came over to us. So we pretty much kicked straight off with a lot of the same advertisers in. I kept the same sort of content. But the one thing that we did do was that Sport Diver was the official PADI Diving Society magazine. So what I did was, we still work with PADI, but I made the decision that we were keeping it very much like non-denominational. It's just for divers. So that means we do work with BZAC, I do stuff with RAID, SSI, you know, PADI, everybody, TDI, all sorts. And I just think it makes a far more rounded product, that it's not just with one or the other. At the end of the day, it's about divers. And I try and put the content in there for any diver. So there's stuff in there for people who've just qualified. There's stuff in there for people who are, you know, your advanced open water rescue diver level. We have a regular tech section. We've got an underwater photography section. We have a big kit section because everyone likes shiny toys. So, you know, whatever level of diver you're at, there should be something in there that you'll find interesting to read.
Yeah, and I think that's very important as well. You've got to remain neutral. You know, it's one thing that I've found doing this for a couple of years now. If you're not careful, you can go down the slippery route of just being too biased, and that way you're not assisting the industry as a whole, let alone your customers that are listening or reading. Yeah,
no, and I think as well, it's, you haven't got people, they're not necessarily brand loyal, if that makes sense, with training anymore. You know, then maybe somebody started with PADI, but then they might see a course that SSI are doing that PADI don't offer, and they'll go, oh, that looks an interesting course. Or like SDI solo diver course, they might go, oh, fancy that, they'll do that. They might do a RAID course. You know, then when they got a bit higher level up, they might do a PADI Tech course, for instance, but they might do a TDI course, or they might do an IANTD one. So I think you can bounce around. I mean, I've got qualifications with, I think I've got 6 different, you know, brands I've done qualifications with over the years. In the end of the day, you're learning to dive. They've all got the differences, but the basic core element is very much the same.
Yeah, and you can afford to cherry pick, can't you? I mean, the idea of getting your basic training done with a standard agency, and then doing something like the GUE Fundies course. You know, that's probably something that any of the other agencies don't really compare to.
No, I mean that John Kendall, GUE Supreme, who does a lot of work with us. He described it best where he said Fundies in a very, very simplistic way. It's described, it's like doing like a peak performance buoyancy course on steroids. Yeah. Like that was his way of doing it. Is he said it's far more than that, but he said in the simplistic terms, it is very much about that. And then he said if you never do another GUE course and you just remain being a recreational diver, or you go in another direction, what you learn in that course will serve you well through everything else.
Yeah, excuse me. So we've got Rork Media looking after the 3 mags, and at what point did you decide to drop the bomb and give it a go at going live and creating the dive show?
Well, what we decided to do was we launched the UK magazine first. So that had been going for about a year, and then we launched into Australia, and we got the Australia magazine going. And then at that point, the show that was existing in the UK, the numbers were like going down of exhibitors, the number of visitors was going down. There was a lot of disgruntled people in the industry who wanted change, and it wasn't happening for one reason or another. So we were like, well, maybe we should look at doing a show. There used to be 2 shows. The one that used to be at the beginning of the year had ended, and there was only the show at the end of the year. And the beginning of the year, to me, is when you should have a show. Because if you're trying to get people enthused, particularly in the UK, if you're getting enthused about diving and you want people to then feel like they could go and start diving, it makes far more sense that they could come out of the show and literally within a month or so, they could be in the water into the season proper. So that's why we picked the end of February, beginning of March as a prime time for doing it. We had a meeting with probably 40 key players in the dive industry, kind of got all their ideas, laid out what we planned to do, that we wanted it to be an all-encompassing show. So the same kind of mix as I described for the magazine, you know, whether you're a novice, just interested in diving, right up to high-level techie and everyone in between. We wanted it to be interactive. So we wanted elements there. So if you came with a family, there was stuff to keep the kids occupied, stuff that even non-divers would enjoy. So that we wanted that interactive element. We wanted it to be educational, but we also wanted it to be inspirational. So that was why we had multiple stages with really cool speakers on, lots of exhibitors, and then the interactive elements all mixed in. So there was lots to keep people walking around all the time. And it was just, that was our aim, to try and create something like that. And yeah, it went down really well. You know, it was well received. We got a couple done, and there was nice moderate growth, and then COVID happened. Literally 3 weeks after our second show was the first time the world stopped. There was all the little startings of COVID when we were doing a show, and we had a few people with no shows from the Far East. But at that point, everyone was kind of putting it down as being another bird flu. That, it's just something that's going to happen in Southeast Asia. It's not going to affect anywhere else. And then, like I said, 3 weeks later, we were in the first lockdown. So we then ended up missing a year, because obviously with all the lockdowns and this, that, and the other, and no big groups were allowed. So our third show in a new venue actually happened 10 days after all the COVID restrictions were removed. So it was literally like first one out of the doors. But we still ended up nearly having 6,000 people came. So it wasn't a bad start, and it went well. But then it grew. And in 2023, the numbers had grown, and we went into another hall. And then the show we've just had now in March, we extended into another hall. So we're up to 10,000 square meters, and we had about 10,000 attendees over the weekend. So it was like the British Dive Show was back with a bang. So it's taken 5 years, but like I said, there was that year gap with COVID. But if we take the 3 years we've done, it's grown exponentially year on year. So I think that it's a good thing for the British dive industry, but I think it's good for the global market as well. We've got a solid dive show now back in the UK, and the UK market is an important market, especially if you're more of the experienced technical end of it. There seems to be a lot of them in the UK. To say we're a small country, we've got a lot of the higher end divers. And I mean, I think partially some of that might be down to the conditions, because it's just, even if you're recreational diving, you're in a dry suit, the viz isn't great, it can have currents. It's a bit more challenging than being able to jump in somewhere where it's 29 degrees, 40 metre viz, in your trunnies and a t-shirt sort of thing. So I don't know if that maybe has helped foster, the more experienced divers.
I think you're right, nail on the head there. And it's much of a big surprise to me when I came down to Sydney for the first time. It's much the same here, because, we do have, balmier waters compared to the UK, but it generally tops out around 23, 24, and then through the winter time can drop down to 16, 17. So if you want to spend any amount of time underwater, then, you are looking at a 5 mil or a dry suit.
No, I would definitely be in a dry suit. If it goes below 20 degrees, I'm in a dry suit. I'm not going to be freezing. It's not so much the water, it's when you come out and that wind hits you. It's like there's nothing better than just locking off the shoulder, sticking a bit of air in and looking smug while people in 5 mils are sat there shivering.
I had it with the missus last year, maybe 2 years ago now. I've always been diving in wetties. I've done the dry suit a little bit sometimes, but I much prefer a wetty, just because I like to take a leak when I'm diving. But we get back after the first dive and we're on the boat, and there's no protection from the wind on this boat we were on, and the missus, bless her, gave me a rather smug look because she's sat there with a heated vest cranked up to 3. And I was shaking like a shitting dog. It was terrible.
Yeah, I tell you, it's... Actually, I have to say, though, those heated vests that can be used wet and dry are just mega. Because, I mean, heated vests under a dry suit are great, don't get me wrong. I've even had heated gloves under dry gloves, and they're amazing. But, yeah, I've used a couple of the wet-use heated vests, and they were a revelation. I was like in a 5mm in winter in the Red Sea, and I didn't really need it on in the water, but, yeah, getting out, it was just cranking that on so your torso was warm. Night and day.
Yeah. And she's a massive advocate for him. So much so that Christmas time she got me one as the temperatures dropped, and lo and behold, the temperatures came back up because we're cracking into summer. So I've not even used it yet. I'm kind of excited for winter though. I was
going to say though, you're going to be prepared. When I had one on test, I used it for in the morning when I was walking the dog. It was cold.
Oh yeah.
Just put it on for that. I used it mountain biking because it was like getting there. It was cold. Put it on to warm my core up, turned it off while I was riding, and then at the end, when you have that rapid cool down, crank it back on again. So, multi-use they are. They're great.
Which one did you try out? Or which have you got one?
Well, the first one I had was the Thermolution one.
Yeah.
And then when Thermolution has stopped, they've gone out. It's Venture Heat, then bought the Thermolution technology and have upped it because the Thermolution only had the heating element on the back. And then the Venture Heat added the heating element on the front as well, and a few other extras, which are definitely an upgrade. Night and day, that thing. It was amazing. Yeah,
that's the one that I've got. Still sat in the box. But it'll come out to play soon enough. Hey, give me a second. I'm just going to turn the fan on. It's bloody roasting over here. But, we're doing the change of seasons. We've just gone into autumn, effectively. So it's starting to cool down, but it's still, what is it now? 20 past 8 in the morning. It's starting to crank up already.
Yeah, no, we ain't got any of that at the moment. It's raining. I think it topped out about 13 degrees here.
Yeah, I don't miss the UK weather whatsoever.
Well, you'd be all right now. You could wear your heated vest.
I think I'd be wearing it 24/7 over there nowadays. I think the longest I've been back for now is about 3 weeks, and that's the longest since I left in 2012. So it's a bit of a shock to the system when it gets below 15, 16 degrees. That's it. I'm all in. I'm just staying in the house. That's it. No going out. Can you divulge who we've got attending the show this year?
Yeah, so far we've got a few big names lined up for our inaugural show in September, which I'm very excited about. So we've got Anthony Gordon roped in to be our MC extraordinaire on the main stage, because we would do quite a lot of work with Gordo in the magazine, in the Australian magazine, because I used to do a section in the UK mag called The Next Generation, which was basically aimed to showcase children in diving and youngsters in diving and teenagers in diving, because we need to get more younger people into diving, without a doubt, because you only have to walk around some of the dive shows in certain countries, and I mean, I turned 50 in December and I still feel like I'm 30 years younger than everyone. It's scary. So we need to get more younger people in, but I always think that the best person to speak to young people are other young people. So you and me can wax lyrical all we like and say how awesome diving is, and they're going to be like, why are the old bald people telling me to go and do something? But if you've got like a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old saying why they love diving, then there's more chance that other teenagers will take notice of that and want to do it. So I wanted to give them a voice. So we started doing that, and at the same time, Gordo was doing that with his Aqualum series that he started doing on YouTube and everything. So we've kind of joined the two together now. So he's still doing his videos, but then we have a section in the magazine which is like Aqualum Next Generation, and it's what I did. So it's got the ability for little snippets from kids talking about why they love diving.
Yeah.
So we do a lot with him, and he's very, very passionate like me. So we thought actually he'll be a good one to MC the main stage. And then so far announced, we've got Richard Harris, which I'm very excited about because I've never actually met him in person. I've seen him on stage at Eurotech when he come over to the UK with all of the Thai cave rescue people, which was just amazing. They were on stage for 2 hours, and then it took them about an hour to finish the Q&As before they were literally had to leave the stage, because I think they'd still be there now. It was like there's so many people wanting to listen to him. So he's going to be awesome on the main stage, and I'm looking forward to him talking about his dive that he did a couple of years back, where he went to, was it 240 meters, breathing hydrogen, like just mind-blowing. So, yeah, that's going to be cool. We've got Jill Hyneth, which I'm very excited about because she was one of our main stage speakers at our very first UK show. So it's nice that at our first Australia show, she's back. Plus, she's just done a Diving into Darkness documentary, much of that which was filmed down around that area. So, again, double with that. And she's going to be showing some of the footage from that. So that's going to be very cool as well. Then we've got the legend that is Pete Mesley coming in from New Zealand. So that's just going to be awesome because his stories are just fantastic. He's got that ability when he's on stage. You feel like it's just a bunch of people sat in a pub having a chat with a friend when he's doing his talks. So he's going to be awesome. And then we've got Liz Parkinson coming over from LA. Now, I've known Liz for about 25 years, and she was one of our speakers at the show last year. And she had one of the biggest crowds. She's mega. When I met her, she was mainly scuba instructor and free diving, but then she's got into doing stunt performing in Hollywood, and she's like now the go-to person. She was involved with the latest Avatar movie. She's done things with Hugh Jackman. She's done all sorts of stuff. And yeah, she's an amazing presenter as well. So got a really strong lineup on the main stage so far. And we're going to have a mega screen as well. So in the UK, we've got a big screen. I think it's 5 meters by 4 meters. So we're going to aim to have something similar like that on the Australia screen so that when people are showing their video clips or their stills, it's a mega video wall behind them. So it's really impressive. And all of their stuff's going to look amazing on that. Yeah,
that's outstanding. Bloody hell. Also, Pete's going to know Jill then, isn't he?
Yeah, it's funny because it's such a small world, is diving. That's why I tell to people, it is a global entity, but everybody knows everyone because it's such a small world. The number of people that, you meet someone and then within 10 minutes of talking to them, I can guarantee there'll be 5 people that they know that I already know. And not always famous people. I can just meet somebody on a boat and I can guarantee there'll be someone they know that I know. And it is, very small world, which is what I like about it.
It is. I love it. And I've said it before, for me, it's the closest thing that I've found to the community that I had within the military. It's so small. In fact, I was recording the other day and someone else mentioned the same, being able to go across the other side of the world and end up talking to someone and lo and behold, they've dived with you or someone that you've been connected with. Yeah.
A number of times as well that you go somewhere and then you bump into people. Like I dived with a guy when I was out in Egypt and then I was in Bonaire, of all places, and I'm on a boat and there's a boat moored up about 20 feet away and we're both on the top deck. It was like both spotted one another. We were like, what are you doing here? Yeah. It was just incredible. It was like, what? Amazing. It was just somebody I bumped into on a boat. 4 years later, there we are. We're both in Bonaire.
Yeah. I had much the same in fact, the Banda Sea crossing. And you can imagine where the hopping points are from, Komodo right the way across to Raja. And one particular evening, I've got the drone up and then someone pings a message. Are you on such and such a boat? I'm like, yeah, I am. How the fuck do you know that? He said, look to your left. And lo and behold, there's my old boss from 6 years previous. And he's on the boat having a bit of fun. So we popped across and had a few beers. Very small world.
Yeah, it is. But I think that's part of what makes diving special. That it has that there's people from all walks of life, but it's a great leveler is diving. And then you can just talk diving to people and it doesn't matter what you do, where you come from, how old you are or anything, And then I've done quite a bit with diving with veterans that have, lost limbs or have got traumatic brain injuries, that and the other. And when they've used diving as a kind of a form of healing, that it gets them out. They've got, and they said that that's a great thing when they're out of the military for whatever reason. Suddenly they've lost that camaraderie they had, and that's why they said diving's great because they do feel like you said they feel like they've got that back. So No,
it's in fact, you know what? You just sparked an idea in my head. I've thought of another person you can have on one of the stages at the show if you want.
Yeah, all ears.
Lindy Leggett, and she runs the Scuba Gym Australia.
Right.
So she takes disabled people and PTSD sufferers underwater in the pool to give them some treatment and assist with their mental health. She was on the show last season, and I went and helped out with a few of the pool sessions just to check it all out, and then we ended up taking 4 disabled divers into the shark dive experience in Sydney Aquarium for the first time.
Cool.
It's never been done before. Yeah, and she's a lovely lady. And speaking of links within the scuba diving industry, she's really good mates with Paul Toomer.
Oh, there you go.
I'm sure you know. Yeah, but she would be a cracking one to have on one of the stages, and she's great, a great speaker.
Ah, right, yeah. No, I'll definitely get the contact details off her later then.
Yeah. No, she's a good one. Oh, I've just had a brain fart. It's a good job that this is just recording, and I can just delete out bits like this. How long are you down here for in Sydney?
It's a very quick trip, so we fly in on the Wednesday. I believe we arrive on the Wednesday, and then I think we fly out the following Wednesday. So
holy shit!
Pretty much down, do it, and back again, because then I'm straight into the cycle of 3 magazines to print. So Australia goes to print on the 11th, the UK goes to print on the 18th, and the US goes to print on the 23rd.
Just to keep you a little bit busy.
Yeah, exactly. Just what I need when I'm trying to recover from travelling halfway around the world and putting a show on is to do 3 magazines back to back. But hey, it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. Well, at least you're coming this way first off. Whenever we fly, obviously we've always got to go west, and it's easier going out than what it is coming back. The jet lag seems to be 10 times worse coming back this way. Yeah,
the most stupid trip I ever did was when I went to Fiji for a week. So we flew out. I did 4.5 days of diving, and then we flew back again.
Oh, sod that. Yeah. No, we tend to anything further now than Indonesia. We tend to add on 3, 4, 5 days as a minimum, just to make it worth it, because it's just such a haul from here.
Yeah,
we did Galapagos expedition last year and tagged on. What was it, 2 weeks? Unfortunately, we went to Roatan, and it was a bit disappointing. I thought it was going to be a lot better than what it was, but at least we got some sunshine and some beers. And that was about it. Yeah,
but like you say, if you're going on a long trip, it's. I mean, I know I'm usually doing it for work, but even then, sometimes it's now starting to get. I've been doing this now, flying around the world for, like I say, 25, 26 years. And it does start to wear on you a bit more when you're getting a bit older. Don't bounce back and recover as quick as I used to.
I take the piss out of the missus because she's, 6 years younger than me. So I can have my lazy days. As you know, as a 50-year-old, you can't be asked doing something, or it takes you a little bit longer to do something. And she's like, come on, let's go, let's do this. Just you wait, girl. This is going to catch you up in a few years. And I'll remind you of this moment when you were telling me that I was an old bugger.
Well, that's it. Trying to keep up with my 17.5-year-old son keeps me reasonably active. Like I said, going out mountain biking with him, and then our perennial toddler dog, making me go walking with him every day. That helps keep me fit as well. But yeah, there's just certain things, like I say, when I fall off the mountain bike now, I don't tuck and roll and bounce like I used to. It's more of oh! And then I lay there going, why does it hurt?
6 weeks later, your bruise is just disappearing. I know.
Pretty much. So yeah, I'm a little bit more careful. He's got that bravado of youth where he's immortal, so nothing's going to happen. Yeah. So he just launches off anything, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just go around that.
Luke's his name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a diver as well, eh?
Yep. Yeah, he's got about 220, 230 dives now. And we're due out to Malta this summer, and he's going to do his rescue course. Because I haven't blasted him through his courses. A lot of people, when he was getting near 10, were all like, oh, you're going to make him like the world's youngest master scuba diver and everything. I was like, no. I'm not racing him through everything. I want him to enjoy it and experience. So he did his junior open water, and then he probably did 60 or 70 dives before he did his advanced. And then then his junior advanced switched to become the full advanced, obviously, once he got over 15. And then he's just been diving. But I mean, he's dived in Iceland, he's dived in Wales, he's dived in the UK, he's dived in Grenada, Egypt, Malta before. So, he's dived in various places. He's been lucky with that. So he's had a lot of different experiences and everything. And I just think that experience has stood him in good stead. But now he's 17 and a half. He's nearly the same height as me and everything. And I'm like, right, I said, what about doing your rescue course now? And he was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm up for that now. So I thought, right, it's a good time for him to do it. And then it's, only a couple of days, and then we can still have some more dives and that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I'm the same as you. I think it's the right way to do things, not rush it. And obviously I've worked in Koh Tao, one of the busiest locations on earth for dive training. And on several occasions, I've had people that want to do their dive master training, and they've only just finished their open water. And I'll always advise, just take your time, get some dives under your belt, get the buoyancy and the basics just nailed, so it's you don't even need to think about it, and it
that's
just
the thing.
automatically
And,
do it.
And I wanted him to enjoy it. My worry was if I pushed too many courses on him, it'd start feeling like he was at school again, and then he'd just be like, "Yeah, I'm not interested in doing that." Whereas when we just go in and doing some cool dives, because he's a proper little recce like me. I mean, he likes the big stuff, so he's desperate to see some proper big sharks and mantas and things like that. But ferreting around in some rusting metal, he's definitely a chip off the old block on that one. So, he wants to do Scapa Flow with me. We were going to try and get up this year, but the dates, unfortunately, didn't quite work out. But, yeah, we'll just shelve that one. Maybe try and get him up there next year.
Yeah. In fact, Scapa Flow, have you been there before?
Yes, I've been there 9 times to Scapa. I love it up there. It's about 5-6 years since I've been there. The last time I did it, I was on one of the little Hollis Explorer rebreathers, the Stormtrooper one. I think I put it into deco on everything apart from one dive, which, considering it was a unit that wasn't supposed to be designed for decompression, was quite interesting. I had to keep scrolling around on the handset so I could see how much gas time was remaining and what scrubber life was remaining, and kind of, work it like that until it worked out that we were, you're out of deco now, so I'll let you have the proper information again. But I'll tell you what, it was great all week. And I was only getting out of the water, not that long in front of people who were on, proper big full-on CCRs and everything. But it was a lot less faff to set up than theirs. It was just, we did it on purpose to go, because that thing was, I took it to Egypt as well, and that was where it was really happy. I mean, being able to go and do 2.5-hour dive on Ras Mohammed in the middle of the breeding shoal of fish was amazing. And that was where it, was in that sort of like sweet spot, 15 to 25 metre range. It was just ideal. But we just wanted to show that you could actually push it and do a little bit more hardcore diving, and it was capable of doing it. So, we were doing dives at 35, 40 metres and, and stuff like that. And it handled it really well. But yeah, next time I go up, I'm just going back up on scuba. I'm just enjoying myself. I don't want to have to try and think how to dive something. And like I said, if I can show it to Luke, because I say it's one of my favourite spots up there. It gets in your blood. Yeah. One of them things people have is it's like, it's somewhere you have to go at least once. And I guarantee if you've been once, you will definitely want to go back again.
Yeah. See, I've not had the pleasure. I got very close one time, but obviously buggered off overseas again. But do you know how many wrecks there are in total up there?
Well, this was the thing. I think there were, when they all went down, I think there was 70 odd when the whole scuttling went down. And if they were untouched, it would blow the pants off truck at Bikini or anywhere, because there'd be all these scuttled vessels lying there, fully intact. Would have been awesome. But then there was a gigantic salvage operation, so most of them got raised. So there's only 7 left, and they've all been salvaged in one way or another. But the ones that you have got are amazing. So it's definitely worth seeing, because there's not many places in the world where you can dive World War I German battleships.
Indeed. I mean, I can't think of many other places that you would.
No, and not as easily accessible either. I mean, the maximum depth is on the Mark Graf. I think it's 44 metres. And then the shallowest ones, when you hit the top of them, you're in about 11, 12 metres, because they're that big. And there's not a lot of current where they are either. So you can kind of jump in, go down the shot line, swim around, and then either come back up the shot line or fire up an SMB and just come up that way. But you don't have to even go down to the bottom. The battleships are all upside down because of the weight of the turrets. But the cruisers and the minesweeper, they're lying on the side, and they're actually my favourite dives, because you don't have to go down to the bottom. So if you've got one sitting like this and you hit this side at, 17 metres and this is about 35, you only actually need to go to about halfway down. So you might be in the 29, 30 metre range. And then you can kind of see everything, and you just go along the deck, and then you got all the windlasses, the battle bridges, And it's amazing. All the decking's still there. German workmanship, because you can some of the deck guns you can go around the back and you can still see all of the dials and stuff like that. It's incredible.
No, that sounds good. And I've had a few people tell me in the past that it's if you get it right, the visibility there can be absolutely insanely good.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, the worst I've had, because I've gone at all times of year when I've been up there, the worst I've had is probably 4 to 5 meters, which is still you can still see things. But I usually try and go in either like April, May, or September time, because I find it's either side of when you might get any algal bloom. You know, if the water temperature gets up a bit, and it'll prompt that. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it, because I did it once in August, and we had amazing visibility, and it was really warm. We were all sat in t-shirts in between dives, but the vis was great. So there is no rhyme or reason to it, but generally earlier on in the season or later in the season, when the water's that little bit colder, you can have really good vis. I think I probably had easy 12 meters on the wreck sometimes, you know, which is pretty good, to be fair, where there isn't any current, you know. So
yeah. That sounds good. I might go and dive there sometime in the future.
Yeah, you see, you definitely want to break out your dry suit and your heated vest for that one, though.
Yeah, for sure. I think if I mentioned it to the missus, it'd be a point blank, just no.
I think as soon as you start talking about 12, 14 degree water, she'll be like, yeah, no.
Not a chance. Where's your go-to place then for diving? Do you actually get much time for diving with all the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do as many trips as I used to. I mean, the first 16 years that I worked as the editor on Sport Diver, I was doing 1 week every month. I was doing 12 trips a year. So I got around a lot of places then. But people said to me, you're burning the candle at both ends, because I'd literally be away for a week. I'd come back, get the magazine to bed in 3 weeks, go away for a week, come back and do a magazine in 3 weeks. And it was like a cycle. So they said, you're burning the candle at both ends. I went, no, I'm blowtorch in the middle. I mean, it was absolutely annihilating me, but it was just the opportunity to travel and do things. It was like you snap it off with both hands. So I don't do as much now. Maybe 4 trips in a year, which still ain't bad, don't get me wrong. But I'm just, it's just trying to fit it in with everything else that we've got going on. I have to try and be realistic. But like I said, this year we're going to Malta. I think we're due out to Grenada as well. I think Tobago's on the cards, because we need to go out and do some stuff with them. Obviously, I'm flying down to Australia, but no diving, unfortunately, unless it's diving into a beer glass. There might be a bit of that.
I'm sure we can arrange that bit.
And then we've got Dima in November, but again, no diving there. But that's in Vegas, so that's going to be messy. But I also do, plenty of diving in the UK still, because I still enjoy testing the equipment. So that's when I'm either in Cape and Ray, the quarry we mentioned earlier, or my nearest coastline is off North Wales. So often go in there for shore dives or a boat diver and stuff. So, they're nice. I mean, even if you're going for a bimble around at 7 meters on one of the shore dives, there's still lobsters and crabs and all the kelp and squat lobsters and, different fish and everything. So you see plenty of marine life, and it's nice and shallow. You can have a good long dive. You don't have to go deep, dark and dirty. You can just stay nice and shallow and still enjoy it.
Yeah. We've got a lot of shallow diving here as well. But the biodiversity in Sydney is just ridiculously good. People pay a small fortune to go to the likes of Lembarn and Ambarn, Glembait and Ambarn, etc. We've got it right on the doorstep here. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of the articles that we've had in the magazine about Sydney diving, some of the critters and stuff, that are there, seahorses and this, that and the other, it's amazing. It's like you've got muck diving on your doorstep, really.
Yeah. But last month, a couple of months ago, when PT came up, and we went for a couple of dives, and that was just in at Clifton Gardens, and I think the maximum depth we got was about 11 metres. But the critter hunting there is just ridiculous. So much so that, Nays was there for the first dive as well, so the three of us went in. Second dive, me and PT, and then she decided that she was going to hang around and do a third dive. It was that good. And at 7 to 10 metres, maximum 11 if you were lucky. Stick your wrist into the sand. But it is absolutely remarkable. And you've dived in Sydney before, right?
No, I have never dived in Australia.
Mate,
This
Well,
will be the
obviously you're
first
not going to
time
be
I've ever
diving.
been to Australia. When I fly down
Get out
for
of
a
it.
week, that's my first ever time in Australia.
Holy shit! Oh, mate, you're going to have to. Okay, so obviously not this trip, but for next year, plan to spend a bit more time down here, and we'll go and get some critter hunting done, and also the weedy sea dragons,
Yes,
grey
definitely
nurse
want to see
sharks
them.
that are. You just come nose to nose with the grey nurse sharks, and they just hang around and treat you like one of the family. It's great.
Yeah, no, that is our plan for next year. Going to get it organised a bit more that then we can come down, do the show, and then have a couple of weeks holiday at the end, so I can get a bit of diving in, do a bit of the the tourist bit as well. Problem is, Adrian keeps our editor who's based down in Brisbane. He keeps posting when he's been and done like with the grey nurse sharks, or he's gone and dived the young gala, or he's gone and done one of the the HMAS ships that have been scuttled, like the Perth and the Brisbane, this, that, and the other. And I'm just looking at him, I'm like, oh, I really want to do that. Really want to do that one. Oh, that looks good. I want to do that. And then he goes and does Rodney Fox with the Great Whites. I'm like, oh, I definitely want to do that. And then I look and I'm like, yeah I'm going to need more than 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You need 2 weeks just to get across the country. It's that big.
I know. So I think I'll have to just cherry pick a few things. I think it'll probably this next year. It'll be, like you said, a few dives around Sydney and touristy stuff in that area, and then I'll plan a trip to come out, just a dive trip, and hit some more of the other stuff.
Yeah. And if you time it right. In fact, you'll know anyway, because Don's done a couple of articles for you on South Australia. You can get in all three down there. So Rodney Fox, Whyalla for the cuttlefish aggregation, and then the leafy sea dragons under the jetty. So you can do all three in one hit. That's what we plan to do as well. Maybe next year.
The cuttlefish just amaze me because I love cuttlefish. Cuttlefish and octopus are amongst my favourite marine creatures because there's so much intelligence. Like sometimes when you're looking at fish, there's not a lot going on. There's a definite Dory moment. But then there's other fish, they're looking back at you. I always feel that a little bit with manta rays when they go by you, that they're definitely kind of sizing you up. But octopus and cuttlefish, definitely, they are intelligent and they are properly eyeballing you. And just the colours and the way that cuttlefish can change and undulate. You don't have to look far to get ideas of where, like, people who do Close Encounters of the Third Kind and stuff got an idea for the aliens. Because you're like, well, we've got them right here. Just the way that they can change the colour and their eyes. And the biggest cuttlefish I've seen are about that sort of size we get here. Oh. So when I've seen the pictures that he'd done where they're like these monsters, I'm like, that must be amazing to see that many of them.
Yeah, and they're a prime example of the biodiversity we've got here. You got the almost metre long ones down at Whyalla, and then again you go in at Clifton Gardens here and you find the tiny little pygmies. They're only a couple of inches long. Yeah, but they're all the same, all super intelligent, like you say. Yeah. Even those the tiny fellas. I tend to usually I'm doing macro, obviously, when I jump in there, but over time I have taken the dome port down, and the little fellas are the most curious. When they start seeing their reflection in the dome port, you can get super close. Yeah, and you can almost read the mind as though they're like, "All right, well, what the fuck is this?"
Well, I've had a little octopus once, and he was hiding in a hole, windlass hole on a wreck in the Red Sea, and he was just his eyes were peeking up at me, and he kept going in, and he was just peeking up at me, and so I just literally just hovered. And I was there probably for about 5 minutes, just floating, just watching him. And he came up a bit more, and then he got a bit more confident, and he kind of plopped out. And then, like I say, I put the camera down, and then he could obviously see himself in the dome pot because he put a tentacle out, and he was like going dink, dink, dink on the glass, like figured out what it was. And then he stuck he pulled it a bit, and I could feel him tugging it, and I'm pulling him back, little tug of war with this little octopus. It was like did the entire dive there. I don't think I got any more than about 12 meters away from the where we jumped in. Everyone else had gone off down the reef, and I got picked up. I pretty much got up and got on the boat. They all got picked up by the Zodiac. I went, "Where did you go?" I went, "Nowhere. I just stayed there. Found an
down and up.
I wasn't going anywhere."
Oh, fabulous. You mentioned the other day your Egypt trip that's coming up. When is it? Who's it with? What are you doing?
So doing a trip in July 2020, and so it's on the Scuba Scene liveaboard, which is, I think it's the largest liveaboard in the Red Sea at the moment. It's 48.5 metres long and 10.5 metres wide. And it's even got it's got a pool on it. Not a hot tub. It's got a hot tub on the roof. Yeah. It's got a pool. that are filled with salt water and it's got seats in it. So there's nothing better than chilling at the end of the day, sat this deep in the water, nice warm seawater when I've just pumped it out and it's like 28, 29 degree water, sitting in there with a cold beer, perfect. But yeah, so we're doing a mega trip. So we're going to get on it in Port Galib, which is the southernmost Egyptian marina where liveaboards tend to go out of. And then we're doing all of like the deep south and Fury Shoals and all these famous sites down there. We're going up through the offshore marine parks, including Daedalus and the Brothers and Zabagad and Rocky Island. And then we're nipping into Safaga to do some of them there in the wrecks, up to Abu Nuhas, which is famous for its wrecks where the Janis Deers and the Carnatic and everything. Cross to the Thistlegorm wreck, cross to Ras Mohammed, go up to the Straits of Tehran, back round to the Rosalie Muller wreck, maybe at the Thistlegorm again, and then go back into Agada. So we're doing a one-way trip through the best dive sites in the Red Sea. So I chartered the boat to do it, came up with the idea of doing it with the rep for All Star Liveaboards, Kevin, who markets the boat worldwide. He was the one who said, we have to move the boat because we do half the year doing the southern trips and half the year doing the northern trips. So that was when I was asking him, like, well, when you move the boat, does it have customers on? And he was like, yeah, we just do a week trip. And I was like, well, would it be a 2-week trip? And he was like, well, yes. And that's where it grew from. So I chartered the boat and I pretty much filled the boat for my trip, but I couldn't do it this year because it was already busy doing other things. So I booked it for July 2025. But because he had to lock off that 2 weeks on the list, they had plenty of their regulars saying, what's that 2 weeks that's blocked off? And he went, well, the chartered the boat, explained the trip I was doing. There was that many people were interested in doing it. He put one on for July 2026, and he's already sold out. So I think I think he's going to make that when it has to do that transition from one marina to the other, he'll do that 2-week trip. So if anyone's ever thinking of doing the Egyptian Red Sea, that's the trip to do, because you don't have to have the choice of, do I do the Deep South? Do I do the offshore marine parks? Do I do the North? Do I do the wrecks? Just do them all in one hit.
Yeah.
Mega.
And that, I'll tell you what, that would be highly attractive to the ANZ divers, I reckon. Again, because of the travel time.
For them to come up, if they were going to come up and do it, instead of, like I said, because we actually had a couple of Aussies on a trip that I went out of Port Galib and we were only doing the Deep South. And the first question he asked was, are we going to be able to do the Thistlegorm? It's like, no, because that's hundreds of miles to the north. But they'd obviously come a long way where they're doing it. And the trip, if you're traveling a long way and you can hit all of the key sites in that 1-2 week trip, if you never ever do the Egyptian Red Sea again, you've hit all the main parts then. And July's a great time to do it as well, because Ras Mohammed, that's right in the middle of breeding season. So you get shows of literally thousands of batfish, thousands of parrotfish, thousands of unicorn fish. It's amazing. So, I'm really looking forward to that one. But like I said, I reckon that's going to be a regular that they're going to do every year now.
What's the price tag on it?
So it's not too bad at all. That boat, even though it's a mega boat, it's got 4 chefs as well. So you get fed very, very well. But you're looking at around about $4,000 US for the fortnight. Which I don't think's bad going at all, really, because the normal price to go on the boat's like, bearing in mind the miles you're doing as well, because it's burning some fuel, because if you look on a map and you look from the Deep South right up to the north and where you're going, you're seriously covering some mileage.
Yeah. Well, mate, you'll have to give me his contact details, because I'd be keen on sorting something out. Clearly can't do it 26. Have to be 27 now by the sounds of it.
Say, get your name down for that one. I'll probably have enough to be filling the boat again, then maybe we'll do a joint one.
That sounds like a spanking idea, mate. I'd be keen on that. How many people can get on board? How many divers?
It is 26, I believe. Yeah, okay. 26, I'm sure. But the thing is, it's such a gigantic boat. When we were on it, it was almost full to capacity. I think it was 2 off full capacity. And there's the main roof is a massive sun deck. You could get 80 people up there and you wouldn't be sat on top of one another. Then the next level down was where we used to congregate, because there's a bar there with a proper barista coffee machine. It's got some nice little stools up against the bar and then lots of comfy sofas and everything. We were all sat up there And even though everybody who was a guest on the boat was all sat on that sun deck, there was still space, and we weren't sat like this. Yeah. Everyone was spaced out. And then the next deck down is where the pool is, and there's a massive dining out area for alfresco dining and more sun lounges. And then at the front, there's a seating area. And then there's even a games room with a massive TV and a games console at the front. They showed us that when we got on, and nobody ever went in it again for the rest of the week. And that was a massive room at the front. It's such a big vessel. If you want to relax somewhere, you can be away from everyone. But even like I said, when you're all sat together, that's part of the reason I chose it to do this trip, because you're on a boat for 2 weeks. You know, sometimes you might want a bit of a break or whatever, and that boat has got enough room for everyone to find their own space or all hang out together and whatever. So, and like I said, you don't get bored of the food with 4 chefs.
Oh, no. But you hit the nail on the head there, because, you know, having worked on liveaboards and done many boats myself, you need, every now and then, you just need that little bit of space where you can just have a bit of own time and silence. And there's nothing worse than having to hide in your cabin if you want that. You know, just being able to stay out in the fresh air somewhere and relax without the hustle and bustle noise of a crammed boat. Yeah,
no, and that's it. It's just, like I said, it's so vast, you know, for doing that. And then the 2 Zodiacs are great because they're a big Zodiac. Tank racks in the middle, so all of your gear's all racked up, not just lobbed in and piled in the front. And they've got ladders. Yeah. So they've got flop down ladders, so it's dead easy to get in. None of the kick like hell and flop over the side like a fur seal or a manatee in danger or something like that. You know, it's like, it's not exactly graceful, is it? So this, being able to climb up a ladder and get in, it's much better. Yeah.
Well, that just having the racks on board is a substantial difference as well. I there's nothing worse, in my opinion, than having to pass your equipment up because they insist on it, rather than leaving it on your back. And the amount of times that I've been on rides back to boats now, and you hear the free flow going off, or, you know, a BC inflating, or the amount of damage that occurs is just ridiculous. And I can understand why they do it, but at the same time, we should be given choice. But a tank rack sounds like absolute heaven.
Yeah, no, it's great because it just literally, it means that when you're going out to the dive site, you might have your gear on if it's a short trip. If it's a longer trip, they put it in a tank rack and you put it on when you get to the site, which makes for the longer trips far more comfortable. But like I say, when you hand it up, and they can literally just put it straight into the rack, bungee on, your gear's safe, and then it's just your fin. I put your mask around your neck, fins are in the bottom of the boat, sorted.
Beautiful, beautiful. How's that for timing?
I thought I'd be a pirate tonight. Left the Stella, I'm on the rum.
Oh, Jesus. I was going to say, whiskey and Coke, I'll be with you, but rum, I think it's one of the few things that will make my head a little bit tender in the morning. Really?
See, rum, I'm fine. Vodka, I'm all right with. I'm not allowed Jack Daniels. It turns me into the Tasmanian devil. So, yeah, I reckon I was a pirate in a past life.
Yeah. We went out a couple of nights ago. I do a lads-only curry catch-up once every couple of months, and it's all divers. And we went out and did this on Wednesday. And you meet in the pub, have a couple of beers, and then go and have your meal. And this bright spark, I've not been out for a while with the lads. So I was like, should we go back to the pub? And like, oh, yeah. 2:30 in the morning, I got home. And so when we were planning to do this recording on Thursday mornings, like, no, I'm gonna keep that one free just in case. And I'm so glad I did, because there's no way we'd be talking right now.
I was just gonna say, though, it's always one of them, isn't it? Number of times I've done that, especially if it's like, you know, someone from, like, my best mate from school. If I hadn't seen him for, like, I might not have seen him for 3 years in the flesh. We've talked on the phone or whatever. But when you see him, like, within 5 minutes, it's like it was only a week since you saw him. You just straight back into it. And that was it. You go, we'll go out for a couple of beers. And you know a couple of beers. It's not going to be a couple of beers. It's going to be a couple of beers every 20 minutes. And then you just, like you say, next thing, it's like, right, 9 o'clock, an hour. And then, like you said, 4 in the morning, you're like going, right, where else can we go?
And then the gentle reminder in the morning that you're 50 years old and not 20 anymore.
You see, that's where I'm not too bad. As long as I just stick with rum or with Stella, I don't get hangovers.
Really? Yeah. See, I never used to get hangovers, but nowadays I'll have, Thursday morning is a perfect example. I wake up with a thinking, my head's going to be pounding any second now.
and maybe 2 hours later I'm all good again. But that's about as close as I get to a hangover the majority of the time, because I don't drink as much as I used to anymore. I've kind of flipped the coin and reduced.
Dialed it back a bit.
Yeah. I mean, living on a beach for 5.5 years and remote dive locations, it's a beer every day.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. And then it can be a bit of a slippery slope, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Enjoy that rum. Have you...
good.
Is it spicy?
Oh, yes. Black spice rum.
Yeah. See, I don't like the stuff, but at least I know the good ones. Are we having an after party at this Go Diving show?
Yeah, we're having a party on a Saturday night. So we're still
on the Saturday?
The details on what we're going to do. We're going to be doing it somewhere near the venue. Because when we do the party at the UK one, we actually have our own bar in the relaxing, socialising area. So that's where we held it. But obviously the Australia one, we're still kind of finding our feet as to exactly how we're going to do it. So we might host it in one of the nearby hotels. We just got to finalise it. But we will be doing something on the evening, because we always do an industry party. We used to do an industry party back when the other show was going and we were just an exhibitor, the sport diver, and we used to do a mega party on the Saturday night. And it became legendary. We used to have like 170, 180 people from the dive industry all came to the event. And yeah, there was many people on the Sunday used to come up to me looking rather green, saying like, bad man. I'm like, hey, I didn't force you to drink. They're like, but you put on a free bar. And I'm like, well, I still didn't force you to drink. So yeah, we will be doing that. And we might do some entertainment as well, because we've done that. At a previous party when we launched Scuba Diver, we had dueling pianos, and that was great. And a guy on a digital saxophone wandering around doing it, and they were absolutely fantastic. So we might have a look at doing something like that.
Yeah. Well, if you need someone to check out the venues for you, just let me know. I'll happily pop along and have a few beers and scope them out.
Yeah, well, that's it. You could be out. We'll send you on a mission. Be like Mission Impossible.
Yeah. I'll take that. Not a problem. Happy days. All right. I can't help but keep looking at your T-shirt, Star Wars.
Yeah, do you like that? So
you're clearly a massive fan, aren't you?
That's why Luke is called Luke.
Really?
And our dog's called Wicket after one of the Ewoks. And I did do it. There's Penny. She's just given birth to him. We had 4 names. I kept pushing for Luke. But she had like Jack, Jake, and Alex as well. Short names we just wanted. And I was still like, Luke was pushing that. But we hadn't kind of decided. So anyway, they gave him to me. And I looked at Penny and I went, I remember it just like looked. And she nodded at me. And I did the moment I looked at him and I went, Luke, I am your father. And the midwife just went, please tell me that's not what I think it is like that. And I went... Could have been worse. Could have called him Anakin. Yeah, brilliant. He's got no hope really. He was when he grew up in his bedroom to start with. He decorated it all with loads of Star Wars stuff, and he is still into it. He still gets quite a kick out of the fact that he is a Luke, and it was due to me being addicted to Star Wars. He went to a fancy dress party when he was about 5, dressed as Darth Vader. He was in a Darth Vader outfit, and everyone kept saying, "Oh, you're Darth Vader," and he kept saying, "No, I'm my dad." And they're all like, what? And then he'd take his thing, Luke, I'm my dad. So there's a lot of people in the diving industry who are into Star Wars. I soon discovered that.
Mate, I love it. It's one of my childhood memories from when I was very young and the original Star Wars came out. And it was the one and only time I remember my mum pulling me and my brother from school just so she could take us to the cinema without all the crowds. And we were the only 3 people in the cinema watching Star Wars. It was phenomenal. Oh, I was addicted from the word go.
Yeah. No, it's funny that it's. I mean, there's a lot of people into other stuff, but it's almost like a cult within that as well with Star Wars, where you just got that. And it's so funny in the dive industry, a number of people that you see, and it's like almost like they've all got something on. They've got either tattoos where it's an Imperial logo or this, that, and the other. There's like little signs.
Yeah.
You're all looking at them like, huh?
What do you reckon on the Mandalorian?
No, I liked it, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the first season was the best by a long way. The first season was amazing, and I think it's lost a little bit, but I've still really enjoyed it. I mean, I even enjoyed like Solo and stuff like that, which some of the films that got slated, I still kind of enjoyed them. The original trilogy are the ones still for me, but I did enjoy Mandalorian. I thought it had enough of that old school charm that it harked back to the original trilogy.
I thought it was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. So much so, my my carry-on camera bag, the rucksack, it's got a patch on it, which is "This is the way," and it's the Mandalorian helmet.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, I love it. See, again, just had another brain fart. It's got to be the time in the morning.
You see, it's because you should be drinking, mate. That's where you're going wrong.
I know.
Doesn't matter what time it is. Remember, if you're drinking rum, it don't mean you're alcoholic. It just means you're a pirate.
I wish I could say that about whiskey. I got, if I had talking about being 50, I had my 50th last month, and we went out to Thailand, and just so I could reminisce on the places that I've dived and worked, and obviously take a load of friends. So we chartered big blues boat in Simmerlands, and a lot of friends came along with quite a few bottles of whiskey, and trying to travel even domestically in Thailand with bottles of whiskey in tow is a right old pain in the arse. But it kind of dawned on me that people seem to have a link between me and alcohol. Thankfully, there was enough people there to help drink it, because there's no way it could get back to Australia. However, I did retain one bottle, and it's from a good buddy of mine over in Sweden. And it's a very specific bottle of whiskey that's distilled in Sweden. And he was explaining that his family have a bottle in the house, and it's probably 6 or 7 years old now, and it only comes out for particularly special toasting events. So it's the one bottle that has survived my trip, and it's the one bottle that's going to sit there and do exactly that. So I should imagine that one's going to be on the shelf and doing much the same as Kent, and only coming out on special occasions.
Yeah, that's it though. It's nice to have something special like that where you just bring it out, and because it makes it even more special when you have it then.
Yeah. I'm looking for, but I'm still, every now and then I'm like, ooh, I wonder what it tastes like. And I think that's going to be the torture until I do actually crack the cork on it, I think.
Yeah, just savour it.
Yeah. So let's talk some more about the mag, and how little time in life you have because of the magazine. Have you got a plethora of people behind the scenes that are assisting you in getting everything done?
No, we are a very, very small team, believe it or not. To say we're like this, pretty big global entity, it's actually, there's a handful of us. So there's me as editorial director, Ross, my business partner, is publishing director, and that's where the name Rork Media came from. So it's the RO of Ross and the RK of Mark. So that's where we did Rork Media. Because if we did it the other way, it was Mass Media, and there was already a company called Mass Media. But we thought Rork Media Limited actually had quite a nice ring to it. So that was where the name came from. So so he's been like the front man on the editorial side of it. My wife Penny, she's business development manager, so she's heading up sales for the UK show, UK magazine, and the US magazine. Sorry, did I say Australia magazine? The UK magazine and the US magazine. And then we've got Adrian, who's the one I mentioned before, who's Brit, but he lives in Brisbane. He's got an Australian wife. He's got 2 Australian kids. So he's our editor for the Australia magazine, but he's also does the sales on it. So he's like 2 in 1 for down there. Yeah. His wife, Sass, she's just come on board with us part-time, so she's helping out with some inputting data and everything, because we end up with all these bookings. There's so much stuff then needs inputting on. That takes forever. So she's come in to help out with that. We've just taken on Leo Grower, who used to work for Simply Scuba, which is one of the big online companies in the UK. And he'd worked for various other like big retailers in the diving industry over the years. So he's ended up out, and we took him on. So we've just brought him on to help out on sales with the photographic side and the manufacturers, who are the ones that he mainly dealt with. So we have literally just brought him on now. And then we've got Mark Newman, who again used to do the YouTube channel for Simply Scuba. So when Simply Scuba ceased to be, we took him on. And so he's heading up so he basically runs that. We've got Steve Weinman doing Divernet, because he used to be the editor of Diver magazine. And then when that company went into liquidation and everything, and we bought their assets, we resurrected Divernet. And then we brought Steve back to run that as his own little entity. And that's pretty much it. We've then got Walt Stearns. He's our editor in the US. So he does some of the articles out there. But otherwise, I've got a cohort of contributors that I can use, like Don Silcock and this, that, and the other, who write stuff. But actual staff, that's pretty much it. And then we've got Matt, our designer, and he designs all the magazines, which is why we have to be on the ball, because some of the content in the magazines I can use across everything. So like some of the equipment reviews, if we've got an article on, say, the Philippines, because people from the UK will travel to the Philippines, people from Australia would travel to the Philippines, people from North America would travel to the Philippines. So I can utilize them in the across all three magazines, but I'll do them at different times, so they won't be in the same issue. But then there's a lot of content is bespoke for each region. So the news is region specific. There'll be local diving, which is only applicable to that magazine. So there's a lot of new stuff for each issue that we have to do. So for a small team, we do a lot of different things.
I was going to say that's a lot of work. Everything that you're listing down there, I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell. That's a job in itself for two people, let alone one.
Yeah, so it does get busy. But like I said, me and Matt have kind of got it down to a fine art now, because the UK magazine is monthly, the Australian magazine is monthly, the US magazine is currently bi-monthly. So what we do is I'll plough on and I'll get the UK magazine done, and the UK magazine will go to bed. So, for instance, that's going to print tomorrow, actually, is the UK mag. I've then got 2 weeks before the next Australia goes. So we'll then get that magazine finished. That'll go to print. We've then got 2 weeks before the next UK goes again. So it's like a constant cycle. But every other month, US gets thrown into the mix. So what we tend to do is next week, so the UK goes print tomorrow. Next week, before we get into Australia, we'll get some of the US done. So that when we get round to the month that US needs to go to deadline, we'll have 90% of it finished, and it's just mopping it up then. And we've kind of got it down to a fine art now. So on a month cycle that's got the 3 magazines, it kind of just all falls into place like a jigsaw. But when it's a month where you've got 3 magazines going to print, and then at the end of it, I've got our show, which is what happened with the UK show. That was a little bit more hectic because I was trying to do a load of show stuff while I was doing all of that. And that all got a little bit where sometimes I'd just be sat there and I'd stop and I'd go, hang on a minute, what was I doing? I'm doing UK?
Yeah.
What was I doing Australia? No, I was doing something on the show. I have to try and get my head in the right place. But it keeps you busy. That's the main thing.
Well, this is why I can see you keep looking up at your wall planner, and I can tell where the wall planner is because you're talking about all the dates and stuff. I can see why you use it now.
Mate, that's my life. If it's not on there, it doesn't happen. I have to write it on there so it keeps me in track. So I've got little stickers on there with all of the dates when they're going to print and this, that, and the other. But there is some good important stuff on there as well. Like the 27th and 28th of April, I've got a weekend down at Twickenham for the rugby. So it's not all work.
Oh,
there
nice.
Cool stuff on there.
Yeah. Are you going watching?
Yeah, I think it's Harlequins are playing someone, because I'm not a massive rugby fan. I do enjoy watching it, but my mate, Stephen Whelan, who does deeperblue.com, the sort of like free diving and diving website, he's a massive rugby fan. So he's dragged me along to various ones. So we've seen, I think it was England versus Wales was one game. And there was England versus Ireland, I think, was another. So this one is the first one I've been to that's not an England match, but it's at Twickenham. But the best thing is we get very, very spoilt because it's what he did last time when we went, which is wearing one of their sky boxes. So we get our own bar, we get our own barman, You have your own private meal, and it's very, very fancy. I'm just humbled that I get to go along because the atmosphere is amazing.
Yeah.
But when you're in one of those places, it's like...
Yeah, it's superb.
So it isn't all work. There is a bit of play as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not a far run for the Quins either, because they're based just down the road from Twiggers. And if you end up going out on the piss afterwards, which is a high probability at Twickenham, hopefully it's still there. It should be, but the Twickenham Tub was a local pub, and it's absolutely fabulous. That was always a go-to after a game whenever I was down there. I was lucky enough to be dating a chick that lived about 15 minutes away, so it almost became a local.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. Rugby, Christ. See, I lost connection with a lot of sports. I love sports, especially when I was in the military, and in particular rugby, a big part of my life. But when I moved overseas and started diving, you lose connection to what was available media-wise because you're limited on what you can watch from country to country. So I dropped off from the rugby element, and it's only now coming back into Australia. I've been here, 6 years now, that I've started to pick up the addiction of watching the games again. And I don't think it matters which shape ball it is. If you're into a sport, then it's nice to sit and relax and watch it, and even more so live, like you say.
Yeah, like I said, the atmosphere and everything that you get there is just incredible.
Yeah. What's your go-to sport then, if you're not much of a rugby dude?
Well, I'm one of those
you don't get time for
English people that doesn't like football. I'm just not a football fan at all.
No, I can't stand it.
Just not interested at all in that. My wife's Canadian, so I have been to a few ice hockey matches when we've been over in Canada. Now I could really get behind that sport because that's it. It's like rugby on ice because they just knock the hell out of one another. It's like there's a fight going on. The puck's way over here. Everyone else has just stopped and watching them while they're like, and then once they've had a punch up, they're only off the ice for like 5 minutes and then they're back on again. It's just, get behind that. And that's got a great atmosphere and everything as well. But the thing I couldn't get my head around was you sat there and they come down like, remember when you used to watch a movie and there was the intermission and they'd come round with the little ice creams in the tubs in the little thing?
Yeah.
They come down like that with tubs with beers in. So you're like, I'll have a beer. So you hand your money along, and then your change comes back. Then you send the tip back to them, and then your beers get handed along to you. You don't even have to get out of your seat. It's like, what a sport! You don't even have to get out of your seat to get a beer. So I do like watching ice hockey, and then, like I said, if I'm going to watch a sport in the UK, it's probably ended up being rugby for the entertainment side of it, and the atmosphere. So I do enjoy that. But otherwise, I don't really watch a lot of sport with the stuff like that. If I do, it's motorised sport. So I'm quite into me rallycross and rallying. Oh, yeah. And I do like watching mountain biking as well, downhill mountain biking, but that's mainly because I'm watching for when people fall off. Because you just watch going, oh, that's going to hurt. Oh, mate, when COVID kicked off, and obviously my main income is me scuba diving travel company, and that closed down, ground to a halt. So I ended up picking up a job working for a distributor or importer of bicycle components. And I used to, much like yourself in England, loved mountain biking. So it was an easy job to say, I'll give this a go for a while and get some pennies through the door. So I was looking after a shitload of shops throughout New South Wales and Canberra, 100 and odd stores, I think it was. And I got to travel around a lot and visit them all. And on my visit down to Canberra, I just happened to get this call from a fella. He said, I've got a mate who wants to open an account with your company. He's starting a new store down in XYZ. Any chance we can, come together and have a quick chat? I was like, where are you? He says, Canberra. I said, yeah, whereabouts? I'm there today. Oh, such and such. Right, I'll be there in 10 minutes. It was literally on my route back up to Sydney. And I stopped in and started talking to him. Graham Albon, his name is. And he was rattling on and talking about his mate's store, and his son is just working on a bike on a stand, quiet and silent, just cracking on. And you have the friendly chat, and then what you've been up to. Oh, I've been out with Lewis, and Lewis is doing this, and Lewis is his son. At the time, he was 15 years old, and the penny started to drop. I'm thinking, this is a 15-year-old kid
and he's won some of the biggest races in Australia already, and beating people that are 2, 3, 4 years older than him. And I said, "Do you get much support?" He said, "No, it's all self-funded. I sell my cars, and then we're off to America next year or next month, and doing Canada, and then down into America and doing all the competitions over there." And I said, "Hold on a minute." And I legged it back out to my car and got hold of the boss on the phone. I said, "Dude, I've got this amazing kid who's just winning everything and not getting much support. Any chance we can get him some tyres and a few bits and pieces?" And because Maxxis tyres are the Mutt's nuts, and we were one of the distributors for it. We was like, "Fuck yeah, Matt, get on it." And even though I'm not doing the job anymore, I've still got him on my Instagram and watch what he's doing. And he's just won. I mean, he must be 17, possibly 18, coming December this year. And he's just won his 5th Cannonball, King of Cannonball. And it's the largest event in Australia. And he's kicking ass on the under-19s. I shit you not, this guy is going to be... He's going to be top of the world at some point.
I was going to say,
there's no doubt about it.
Right trajectory, isn't he, with that?
Yeah, it's insanely good what he's putting out and what he's doing for such a young lad. Remarkable. And I'll flick you a link. You can check out some of his little videos that are going off. And when I say he's winning, a lot of the races that he's winning, he's kicking ass. The time differences are just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, send them because Luke would enjoy to see them as well.
Yeah. Oh, he's a young lad as well, so
like with that, we've been and watched. I've watched some mountain biking races because we're lucky. We're 30 minutes away from Llandegla in North Wales, which is where we go mountain biking. And you've got people travel 4 or 5 hours to go to Llandegla because it's such a good spot. And we've been up there and we've watched some of because they actually have some of the World Downhill Championships and stuff are in Snowdonia and that, so we'll go and watch them. And again, it's the atmosphere live. I mean, watching it if you watch it on TV or on YouTube or whatever, it's still cool. But when you're actually there and there's that whole, you're involved with everything. I think there's something about live is different. Now, I mean, that's part of the reason why we did the shows. Because being at a show and you're sat there in the audience and you've got a Pete Mesley or a Jill Heineth talking, they might be doing the same talk or talking about something that they've talked about on YouTube or, on a recorded thing. But it's totally different to sitting and watching it on your TV at home or being in the audience and there you are and they're right there in front of you. So that's what I think it's bringing that whole live element to life, and it helps that whole dive tribe feeling as well, that you're all there with like-minded people, and it gives you that buzz that this is why I do it, because it's not just because diving's cool, but look at the people that are involved in it.
Yeah, and it closes that gap. That big gap where people are reading the likes of Scuba Diver magazine and listening to, like say, Jill or Pete on YouTube, whatever. The kind of, I wouldn't say celebrity status, but it feels like there's a bit of a difference because the person's on camera quite a lot. People tend to be a little bit apprehensive of approaching, and just being able to have that live event closes that gap significantly. So, and just allows people to realise that you're all one clan. Doesn't matter whether you're a bin man or a barrister. You've got the same love in life for going diving.
Yeah, and like you said, it gives that familiarity with these people, where you have got these people who are celebrities in the world of diving, but they are just divers, and they love talking to divers. So then when, I see it, it's either on people, you can see they're apprehensive about going over to talk to them, and they start chatting to someone, and they just realize they're just talking to them like they're a mate. And you see them, they relax, and then they're like, oh. And then you see them walking off, and they bounce away. They're like they're properly buzzing because they've just talked to someone who's been like some icon. They've read their books or whatever, and they've now just met them and had a selfie with them and this, that, and the other, and they're made up. It's like they probably have a great day doing all the other stuff that's available, but that one thing that they did where they met that person and did that will stay with them for the rest of their life. So it's like I just get a buzz out of that because I always walk around the shows just all the time just so I can see what's going on. And I have to say, it does give me a bit of a thrill when I see that, and I think I've helped enable that. It's good. And I do think it's just nice to see that. Like you said, it just brings everything, it brings it all down to that, that core love of something. Yeah.
Let's get the fins on and get wet. So what else is at the show? we've got people on the stage. We've got
so we've got
this
stage,
this
so we've got the
stunningly
main stage.
beautiful guy.
Yeah, so we've got a main stage, we've got a tech stage, we've got a local diving stage, and an inspiration stage, and then we also have a photo stage as well. So like some real dedicated ones for, you know, some people, then others that are a little bit more generic, but there's lots of interesting stuff on them. We've then got a big tank that's mounted on the back of an articulated lorry trailer that's glass-sided. So we're going to have demonstrations in there. So we can have free diving demonstrations. I think we're going to have a mermaid in there. I think we've got some techies that we're going to have doing demonstrations of like finning techniques, donating air, all sorts of stuff like that. Because being able to see through the side and through the glass, it's great. Because, you know, there's nothing worse than the tri-dive pools are great, but you're looking in the top, you can't see anything, can you? So at least when you're looking through the side, it gives you that feeling. So going to have that. We are going to have tri-dives. We're still just finalising how we're going to do that, but we are going to have tri-dives for people who want to try diving for the first time, or if they want to have a go on, say, side mount or something like that. So the qualified divers, there's something for them to have a go at. We've done that at the UK show from day one, and it's always rammed out all weekend with people wanting to have a go. So we're definitely doing that. We're then going to have some virtual reality diving experiences as well. So even non-divers can have a go at that, or you've got people who don't want to dive, they're just interested in the underwater world, but they can experience it then. We've had them at the UK show, and they're always very popular. And then we're still finalising some of the other interactive elements. One thing that we're trying to find, because I'd love to have one there, that we've had at every UK show, is the cave. So, you know, like these climbing walls that are on the back of a truck that they rock up somewhere and they lift it up and you can have 4 people climbing it at once. It's like that. So it's mounted on the back of a truck and it's 30-metre long cave system. And we've had everyone. Jill went through it. Phil Short went through it. All these cave diving gurus went through it. And all of them, when they came out, went, that is so close to the real caving. And that's about as close as you're going to get to the feeling of cave diving being dry. Because when we saw it and we had the idea, we're like, oh, that'd be really cool. But I have to admit that I thought you were just going to go in on your hands and knees. You'd kind of crawl around and out. But no, you've got a helmet on with a light, knee pads. It's pitch black inside. And I went around the corner, and immediately you can't be on your hands and knees. You're down, and you're having to like crawl through, wriggle, you're round corners, bits. The bit you come round the corner, you're like, well, where do I go now? Oh, I've got to go up. So you have to then get yourself up, and you're on the next level. And then in the middle of it, you fall into a ball pool. There's a massive ball pool in the middle. So then you've got to get through all the balls to get out the other side. And then you end up, you're on the high bit. You have to then fall down to get down to the lower level. So by the time you get out, you've wriggled and crawled and everything. And it was great. And that's been a hit from day one. So we are trying to find one of them or the equivalent to have that there, because that is really good. And we are bringing Bruce the rodeo shark with us. So we came with this idea. We were looking for something to have for the interactive elements, and I happened on this site, and they had a rodeo bull, but the skin was a shark. Yeah. And I'm like, got to have one of them. So we've had him there. We gave him a rest this year, and so many people came and said, "Where's Bruce?" So he'll be coming back next year, but the company, because we're pretty much the only person that uses him, they've said we can use Bruce. So we'll be bringing Bruce with us, and we've already found a company down there with a rodeo bull that we can mount Bruce on. So we count him as Bruce, the only shark he should be riding.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So again, the whole idea was for a fun day out for all the family. So, you know, we were thinking initially the cave, the rodeo shark. We had an interactive bouldering wall this year. You know, we had all sorts of stuff. And it was, you know, to keep the kids occupied, because if happy kids, you know, then mum and dad can have a good wander around and enjoy what they're doing. But we actually end up, it's more adults. We're going in the cave and going on the shark and everything. It's not the kids. So, but it just adds a bit of fun to it. You know, we wanted, it's supposed to be a celebration of diving. And so we just thought, you've got to have a bit of humour. At the end of the day, diving's supposed to be a fun activity, so you've got to have a bit of a laugh.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You know? And also, it is quite funny. If you've got a bunch of blokes there from their dive club, the competitive element comes out. as to who's going to stay on Bruce the Rodeo Shark the longest.
Maybe you can take him to the after party as well. That'd be a bit of fun.
Yes, well, we have thought about that. Because alcohol and a rodeo shark, what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly. Yeah. No broken bones whatsoever. Are you? Is there going to be a photography competition and all that as well?
Yeah. The guys who are running the photo zone, we've got 2 or 3 companies who are all linking up together, and so they're all going to be promoting a photography competition, which will be run over the weekend. I think they're lining up some quite good prizes for that as well. So, and they're bringing some banging speakers to go on the photo stage as well. So if anyone's into underwater photography, or again is thinking of getting into underwater photography, there's going to be plenty of people there to hand out, some good information, or for them to get inspired by, listening to their talks and stuff. So, I'm quite excited about that. That should be good.
Who's running that bit then?
So I think we've got Underwater Australasia are one of them. Adrian's been dealing with most of those. And then I think it's Underwater Photo Guide and someone else. The 3 of them are all linking together. So they're doing one mega underwater photography competition and the photo zone, which is great. Because it's nice to see them, like them all working together to a common end. Yeah. Because that's what the diving industry needs more of. We need more people all working together like that. There's enough other things for people to get involved with. People can get into mountain biking and wakeboarding and kite surfing and, this, that and the other. That can tempt them away from diving. So the more people that can work together to get people into diving, it's better for everybody then.
Yeah. I mean, collaboration is key. It's something that I say time and time again. Rather than, it's all right, being competitive because everyone's got to earn money that's in the business, but working together just makes everything run so much slicker.
It does, and that's probably one of the biggest things that gets me in the dive industry. If I was going to change one thing, that would probably be it. It's like just stop the infighting, because there's too many where you've got this training agency thinks that training agency is the threat. It's like, no, it's mountain biking, it's kite surfing, it's wakeboarding. It's all these other cool sports that people are getting into, and they're not getting into diving. It's like, it doesn't matter if who they come in through, but they're a diver. It means they're going to buy kit. They're going to go on dive holidays. And like we said, they might do a course with that person, might do a course with that person, but you've got them into diving. Whereas if you're having all this fighting over the pool that we've got, and you're all just fighting over the same people, the pool's just going to get smaller and smaller. So we just need to work together to try and get more people into diving in general. And I think that's, that's nice to see that's happening in the photo zone.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And that actually answers one of the 10 questions I'm going to ask you as well.
Oh, there we go. You see, I preempted you on that one then.
Yeah, you got that one out of the way straight away. So I'm just going to tick that one off my list now.
Yeah. It's just, that is the biggest thing that I have to say, that if there's one thing to change, it's just that, forget the infighting. Let's just grow the industry and just concentrate on who the real problem is. And the real problem is all the other sports and activities that younger people are getting into, and they're not getting into diving. That's what we need to solve that problem.
I do a fair bit of work with Nicholas Remy, an excellent photographer and founder of the Underwater Club. And the amount of joy that I've had out of working with him and collaborating so that we're both gaining success is just fantastic. And I urge anyone else out there that wants to use this podcast to promote their businesses, get in touch and let's do it. I'm all about the collaboration. It's the way that we need to approach it, and exactly as Mark said there, we're protecting not protecting, just enticing people to our sport rather than all the other fantastic sports that are out there as well. All right, let's have a crack at the 9 questions that are left from the one that you've already answered.
I'll beat you to it on one, didn't I?
You did. How do you describe your job as a diver to people who are not familiar with the activity?
Yeah, well, sometimes I say I get paid to wear rubber in public is one, but that can get some funny looks sometimes. And I say, no, I'm not a politician. But no, I basically, what I usually say to people is I'm very lucky that I get to do one of my hobbies as my job. Because a lot of people really cannot get their head around what I do. Like where I live, I'm in the middle of landlocked Britain. I'm on the border between Wales and England. and they go, "What do you do?" "Oh, run a media company doing publishing and scuba diving magazines." I'm like, "What?" Like, they think that I should live on a beach somewhere if I'm doing that. And they can't. And they're like, "You do what?" I'm like, "Dive for a business. Don't worry about it."
Whereabouts are you? Right on the border between Wales and
just north of Oswestry. So, we're 15 minutes south of Wrexham. That's the best way how everyone...
Oh,
because of Welcome
bloody
to
hell.
Wrexham being on Disney now, since Ryan Reynolds bought it, everybody knows where Wrexham is, and we are literally 15 minutes south of Wrexham.
My brother has just moved to Frodsham, and he lived in Tannyfron, a little village just outside of Wrexham, for must be at least 20 years.
How funny is that?
Yeah.
But it's just now it's amusing because, like I said before, I was used to say to people, especially if I was talking to someone in the States or whatever, no, they're not going to know where Oswestry is. So I'd say I'm about an hour south of Manchester or an hour south of Liverpool because they know that because of Manchester United. But now Wrexham's on, everybody knows that. I haven't seen Ryan Reynolds yet, though. I'm quite gutted I haven't seen Deadpool, but you never know. I might run into him. Ask him if he's a diver. That's what I need to do.
Yeah. Well, my brother, he's an excitable chap, and he's only 11 months younger than me, but he's one of those people that speaks really fast, and when he gets excited, it gets even quicker. And he's this location that he's moved to in Frodsham. There's 2 local pubs, so him and his wife have been out and checked one out a few times when they first got there. And this one particular evening, Bev said to him, "Should we check out the other one? Just go and have a look, have a pint, see what it looks like." So, yeah, go for it. And they've got in there, and Dan being Dan talks to every man under the sun. So they're at the bar, and very quiet pub, and there's a bloke at the end of the bar and chatting away with him. And Dan nips off to the loo, comes back, and Bev's like, "Right, Dan, I'm going to tell you something, and I don't want you to get overexcited." He's like, "Yeah, fine, no problem." Okay, so the fella that you've just been talking to at the end of the bar, that's Daniel Craig's dad. And boom. That just sets Dan off because he is a massive, like we are Star Wars fans, he's a Bond fan, and his favourite Bond of all time is Daniel Craig. So all of a sudden you've got Dan the man that's, talking a million miles an hour, getting excited in front of his wife, and then he's talking to Daniel Craig's dad. And now I think he's turning into Daniel Craig's stalker, because I think he must go to the pub every day just waiting to see the fella. It's going to be torture when he does see him.
Yeah, because Daniel Craig's mum and dad, their cottage is literally about 10 minutes away from the village where I am, because my mate who's lived here all the time, we've been up here 9 years we've been up here, but we'd gone for a walk, and he went, "It's Daniel Craig's parents' house." I was like, "Really?" He went, "Yeah, you often see him in Oswestry," and sure enough, he was in Booker Bookshop in Oswestry one day when we were in town. Somebody was like, "Oh, Daniel Craig's in
Bloody
Booker."
hell.
Just wandering about like he's just, anyone. So it's, it's quite amusing that, because he just wondered how many people are going up to him, and just like, but he was just in there, and that was the thing. A lot of people weren't paying any notice to him, just leaving him to do his own thing. So
yeah,
it's that British,
that
British
won't be
thing.
Dan.
We don't want to disturb people.
Yeah, that won't be Dan. As soon as Dan sees Daniel Craig, that's it. He's going to be all over him. He said, "Matt," he said, "it's the only time." He's one of these. He's a bit older in the head than most, so he doesn't like the idea of selfies. He doesn't like social media. He said, "It's the one and only time I'm going to get my camera out." He said, "I'm going to get so many fucking selfies you would not believe."
Well, you'll have to ship him over, because our MC on the UK show is Andy Talbot, and Andy was a stuntman on the last Bond movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That would be
because
cool.
everyone said, because he has got a bit of a resemblance to Daniel Craig, with, just hair colour and this, that, and the other, and he's done it. But he was a stunt man on there. So he can come over and do that. Just say then he can get it might not be the full Daniel Craig, but at least he's kind of going that right way.
Yeah. All right, let's get away from Daniel Craig. Can you share a memorable diving experience that stands out to you as the best you've ever had?
That would be in 2007 when I did a 2-week trip to Sudan. Of all the trips I've done, like I said, I was doing 12 trips a year for 16 years. I have been a lot of places, been all through the Caribbean, I've done Middle East a lot, all over Southeast Asia. I haven't been everywhere. I haven't been to Galapagos yet. I haven't done like bikini and truck and stuff. But the place I've been, hands down, Sudan, that trip, it was just mind-blowing. Like, the Umbria is like the world's best shipwreck. It's like fully intact because it was scuttled. It's got like 350,000 bombs still in the hold. You can go inside the kitchen, and it was an Italian ship. There's 2 pizza ovens. There's a dough mixer. There's all the pots and pans are piled up on the floor. You go in the engine room, and there's still tools are welded on the wall where they've encrusted. It's incredible. So that's an amazing dive. But then you've got Shabarumi, which is where Cousteau did his underwater living experiment, and there's the remnants of that. So you can see that. So that's like proper touching history. There's what do they call it? It's a garage, they call it, for the submarine they used to have. And it looks like a sea urchin on legs, but it's massive. And you can actually surface inside. And there's an air pocket, and you can take your reg out and talk to one another in this air pocket. So that's cool. And then you can go off the north tip of Shabarumi, and you can do a dive there, and you can get tiger sharks, which we had, which was cool. Then we went to Sanganeb, and we had 50 hammerheads on 3 dives. But the out of all of the whole trip is the most memorable trip I've ever done. But one particular dive, we saw 10 species of shark on 1 dive, which was just mind blowing. And the top of the tier was a 16-foot tiger shark.
My word.
It was epic.
I
love the Middle East. I mean, I've been to Egypt 80 odd times, so I love the Egyptian Red Sea. But that trip to Sudan was just off the charts.
Yeah. Well, when I was talking to Natalie Lassalan, she said about the Sudanese trip. It was the first one she was going on, and she, much the same as you, echoing what you said, how fantastic it was.
It's the way the marine life reacts, because there aren't as many people there. You know, there's only a handful of boats operate down there, so the sites aren't visited by as many divers, so they're not as used to seeing people, and they'll just swim up to you, or they just completely ignore you. They just assume that you're like another fish on the reef or whatever, and it's hard to describe. It was just amazing. It was like, it literally was one of those trips that, like I said, it was back in 2007 when I did it, and I can still visualize certain things from it as if I did it yesterday. Yeah, proper mind blowing.
Yeah. And that you do that with Royal Evolution?
That was Royal Evolution. I did that on. I think it was about the 2nd or 3rd trip that they did when they started doing that. Because that was the best way of doing it. Get on that in Egypt, so you use all the tourist infrastructure of Egypt for getting there and everything. Then you motor down, you do your check dives in Fury Shoals, which is amazing diving anyway, and then off you go into Sudan, do all your trip in Sudan and everything, and then, you know, back up to Egypt to fly on.
Yeah. Perfect. Maybe one day in the future. All right, here's a good one for you.
Put that one on the list.
Yeah, for sure. Good one for you. You can have a little ponder over this one. If someone wanted to pursue a career similar to yours, what advice would you give them?
I would have said the biggest thing, which probably applies to anything, but particularly with this, is never give up. Put yourself out there, volunteer, you know, get involved with as many people as you can, get to know as many people as you can, because sooner or later it might open a door up for you. Because you know, for me, I came into it from a journalist point of view, because I was a newspaper journalist to start with. So I've been a diver since I was 10. I started working at a newspaper when I was 17. And then I was volunteered at the newspaper while I did my A-levels. And when I came out of sixth form and finished my A-levels, I went straight into a job in journalism. Didn't go to university. I went straight into there. Because I'd volunteered for 2 years while I was doing my A-levels, I had like a raft of stories like this that I'd done while I was doing my A-levels. So came out and I was weighing it up. It was like, do I go and do a media degree or something at university, or do I go straight into a job? And it was like, well, actually, I've got all that experience because I'm volunteering, and that actually got me in with a job. So then I progressed through different jobs with that, and that's why at 25, when this job came up for the editor of a water sports magazine, because I can sail, I windsurf, you know, kayak, diving was my main hobby, but I did all those other water sports. I applied for it, and it ended up that was the editor of Sport Diver. And that was when I got it. So I was 25 when I started as the editor of Sport Diver. I was the youngest dive magazine editor in the world by a long shot at that point. Yeah. And the only reason I got in at that was because I'd been doing it since I was 17. You know, so I was going up against people who were 15, 20 years older than me, but they didn't have the experience I did, because a lot of them had been in university and then they'd been doing other jobs. They hadn't actually been working in journalism, whereas I'd been progressively doing that, working on local papers where you do a lot of things, and just progress like that. And then once I got into it, it's just, like I said, you get to know as many people as you can, and that's what keeps things opening up. But like I said, never give up is the biggest thing, is just keep, if that's something you wanted to get into, you just have to keep pushing, keep knocking on doors. Sooner or later, someone might let you in, and then that's that hook, and then you can keep going from there. But experience is the biggest thing. And even if it means you have to give your time for free, as long as you're getting something out of it, I don't mean that you're doing like a load of donkey work and you're getting used and abused. But if you can, volunteer and you're getting something out of it, I can highly recommend it, because it definitely worked for me.
Yeah, yeah. Sage advice. Yeah. Yeah. Put the work in and get some grinding.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. Like I said, I don't mean just, just where you're just logistic and you're just hauling boxes around or whatever, because you're not learning anything. But if you can get in with someone where you are learning on the job, you might not be getting paid for it, but the experience you're getting is worth 10 times the money you'd get.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, actually, just reflecting that back into the dive industry, I know there's lots of ways people can get into being dive professionals, and like the work for free and get your ITC paid for, etc., etc. I think just recalling or recounting what you said there about not being the box humper and dumper and actually gaining something from it. I think it's got to be on balance as well. And those people who are considering getting free qualifications and putting work in, just make sure that you're not used as a slave.
Yeah.
It's got to be on balance.
Yeah. And that's it. You don't mind when you have to do a bit of, like you said, a bit of the hump work. That's fine. That's going to be part and parcel of it. But you also need to be getting some proper useful stuff coming back your way, rather than just little tidbits. But as long as there's a balance, like I say, as long as you put the graft in and you're getting something back, no worries.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. If you could change anything about the diving industry or scuba diving in general, what would it be?
Yeah, so that is the one I'd say that would be the infighting. It's like PADI need to understand that SSI are the problem. BZAC need to know that it's not PADI's problem. TDI don't have to worry about INTD. Or even, beyond the training agencies, Scuba Pro don't have to worry about Mares, and, Mares don't have to worry about Cressy and this, that, and the other. As you said, there's competition, that's fine. It's healthy competition that you're doing, no worries. But don't let it consume you to the point where you're just fighting over the same little puddle. We need to make that puddle into a lake so that everybody benefits. Because like I said, there's just too many things now that people can get into, and diving doesn't seem to be attracting the younger people as much as it could be. So we just need to try and make diving sexy again, is what we need to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And bring that awareness to it, its availability and its excitement. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of people put it down to, when I've spoken to them, I said, we need to get more younger people. And I went, well, it's the cost. I'm like, that's got nothing to do with it. Half of Luke's friends have all got like a £1,500 iPhone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like money in any like hindrance to certain things. And a lot of them where they're that little bit older, but they're all into triathlons and stuff. Like one of Luke's mates, he's just dropped $6,000 on a bike. Didn't even bat an eyelid. Top of the line scuba equipment for warm and cold waters. You wouldn't even need to spend half that to get kitted out with a good set of kit. So it's like people are spending the money on sports. So it's not that diving is ridiculously expensive. Skiing's just as expensive, if not more. Like I said, triathlons definitely are if you're buying the top end stuff. So people are spending the money. I don't necessarily think that's a hindrance. I mean, if you look at the price of an open water course in the UK, it's what, £300-400? Not that much. Even if you don't go out and buy all your own kit straight off, get yourself a mask and a computer, and then rent the rest of it to start with, and then start building your kit up. It's not like you have to go and buy everything to be able to go diving. You can do it in stages. So I don't necessarily think that's the biggest issue, is the money. I just think there's other things that are attracting them more than diving.
Yeah.
You know, but once you get them diving, if they've had a go, I find by and large people are like, wow,
yeah,
it's another world. And it's like, yeah, it's the nearest you can get to flying. You know, it's like being in space. You can move in 3 dimensions. You know, that's the difference. And once you've got them and they're hooked then, you know, a lot of people, that's it. But you don't want them to have a box ticking exercise where it's like, this year I'm going to learn to dive. And then like next year, I'm going to learn to kayak. And then the year after that, I'm going to learn to, you know, parachute jump. Yes, they're a diver on paper, but they're not a diver. Like in 8 years' time, they might be on a beach in Thailand and see a PADI dive centre, and then they go, oh yeah, I've got my diving certification, I could go for a dive. But they're not really a diver. It was just a box ticking exercise. You need to get people to have done that to dive and then go, oh, I might still do other sports, but wow, that was amazing. I want to do that as more of one of my main hobbies. And then, you know, get them hooked a bit.
I completely agree. What are your thoughts on the ways to minimise human impact on the oceans?
I mean, it's not an easy one with that. I mean, I'm a big one for recycling because, like you know, you go on a dive and I'm fed up of seeing the amount of plastic bottles floating around on the surface and plastic bags drifting around underwater. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. I can be in a freshwater site and you can find plastic bottles and bags that are blown in. You know, it seems to go everywhere. And it just seems that water attracts it. It's like an inexorable black hole that when things are blowing around, it ends up in the ocean. You know, like I say, they go in the river, and then the problem is the rivers, where the rivers go, they all end up in the sea. So anything that goes in a river flows down and gets kicked out. So that's probably the biggest thing is, you know, I am very much anti-single-use plastic and do try and, you know, sort of like push that as a big thing. And I think, you know, if we can limit the amount of plastics that we're using, that'll have a big impact. But particularly those two things, plastic bottles and plastic bags, you know. I mean, I know it might only seem minor. Those are only small things, but they can have a big impact in the oceans, as you know. You know, from turtles eating bags because they think they're jellyfish or whatever. But, you know, on a bigger scale than that, when it starts breaking down and the fish eat it, so then you've now got the plastic in the fish, which then people are eating. So then people are getting the plastic in them. So if you want to take it full circle, it's not that we're just doing it to be like, you know, hug the fish and be all, you know, eco-friendly with that. It's like, if you really want to get down to it, that's going to start getting back into the human population again. So, you know, we need to do something because we're helping ourselves.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, has your passion for diving or your industry changed over time? And if so, how?
No, I reckon, like I said, I started diving when I was 10, turned 50 in December. And if anything, I'm probably more passionate and enthusiastic about diving now than I was when I started. I have so many people say to me when I meet them, I'm, you know, talking to them about diving, or they ask me about it, and they went, God, you're so like, you know, you're so enthusiastic about diving. You've been diving for so long. How are you so enthusiastic about it? And it's like, well, because, you know, I do love it. You know, people can't understand how I can go and dive in places like the Maldives with manta rays, and I can go and dive in Sudan with tiger sharks, and I've done Tiger Beach in the Bahamas and this, that, and the other. And then I'll still go and jump in a quarry in the middle of winter. Like I was in a quarry last week, it was 7 degrees, and we were terracing around on scooters. It was great fun. It was like, I'll jump in anyway. I'll jump in a muddy puddle and I'll still have a great time. You know what I mean? I'm just, if I'm in the water and I'm diving, I'm having a good time. I don't care if the viz is bad. Don't care if it's cold. I just like being in the water. I like that feeling of diving. But also, I said, with the job I'm doing, the day that I'm like, I really can't be asked to go diving, is when I need to jack it in. Because, you know, it's an enthusiast sport, and I'm writing an enthusiast magazine. So if I'm not enthusiastic about it, which comes across in the magazine, you know, I'm on a hiding to nowhere. So it's like, I think, you know, you still need to be enthusiastic to be able to do it and try and pour some of your passion into it to enthuse other people. But yeah, if anything, like I said, I think it helps that Penny dives and then Luke dives now. So we all dive together as well, which is really nice. Diving as a family is just fantastic. But yeah, I just, like I said, I love diving anywhere, any water, get me in it. Love it. So yeah, I think I'm getting worse as I get older. I'll probably be even worse when I'm like 80 and I'm still be diving. I'll be a nightmare then.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of it as well, though, isn't it? I mean, as long as you're capable of moving your arse, then 70s and 80s is not a problem to go diving.
No,
And,
that's it, and that's the great thing about it is the number of people that you do see. I mean, I know we were saying it's we want to get more young people into the sport, and that's to keep the industry rolling. We need new lifeblood coming in, but it is fantastic to be on a boat and seeing people who are diving and they're in the 70s and they look like as fit as a butcher's dog. You know what I mean? You look at them, you think they're not 70, in mid 70s. They look like they're late 50s, early 60s, and they're in there doing liverboards in the Red Sea and this, that, and the other, and loving it. I'm thinking, how fantastic is that? They're not just sat in a rocking chair somewhere dribbling. That's what one guy said to me. He said, I could be sat in a corner, rocking, dribbling. He said, or I could be out here. He said, bouncing around on a Zodiac and going for a dive. I'm like, mate, you're an inspiration to me. I aspire to be like you when I grow up.
Yeah. I'm like that with Don Silcock. The fella's in his 70s and he does so much training and high intensity training. He's just done his extended range and I think 55 metre dives.
Doing all his tech stuff,
Yeah. And I look at him and think, Jesus Christ, this old boy could run the socks off me. He's fabulous. A real inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's the thing is it's not an ageist sport. Again, like we said, you can be a bin man or a barrister, but equally you can be on a boat. Well, in the Red Sea, it was Luke's first ever liveaboard, and he was on there, and he was 16, and I think the oldest person that was on there was 74. Brilliant. And everyone was chatting to everyone. Luke was having a real good conversation with them several times, and it was just really nice to see. Do you know what I mean? That the diving was the common denominator, but then the conversation branched off into all sorts of other places from there. But that was the thing that bound everyone together. And that was really nice to see.
Happy days. All right. Is there a particular conservation effort that you are passionate about? If so, which one and why?
I mean, I've been involved in all sorts of different ones over the years, but I think probably the one that resonates with me the most, probably coral reef restoration work, because it just fascinates me. Some of the technology that's being used now, where they've discovered that, first of all, they started finding the broken bits of coral and they were gluing them and fastening them onto frames, to try and get them growing back. And then they realised that some of these smaller fragments, if you just fasten them straight onto the metal frames, they weren't big enough to survive. So then they rigged up these trees where they were hanging the smaller fragments so that they were getting all the nutrients from the passing flow. And then once they've grown to a certain size, they were then gathering them and then going and gluing them onto these frames. And once they were that size, they had more of a chance for surviving.
Yeah.
And then they discovered this thing, but they discovered that if you run a mild current through the metal frame, it stimulates the coral to grow faster. So there was like a place there where they've wired it up and they've got a solar panel floating on the surface and it's running this current through and the coral grows like 40% faster or something.
Deal.
And it's just incredible to see that some of these things, they had photographs showing where these, coral heads were this big. And in like 5 years, some of these staghorn corals were like this. And it was just incredible to see. And I just think that for me, I mean, like I said, I've done all, particular fish species, efforts for them or for crustaceans. I've done stuff with like lobster hatcheries and this, that, and the other. But I just think the coral reef one, it fascinates me personally because I just think it's incredible how they've discovered ways of helping the coral reefs to thrive and regrow. But also, if we haven't got coral reefs, everything else falls apart. So it doesn't matter if you're doing something that's going to save this particular fish species. If all the coral reefs are dead and everything else, then all that's a building block that, there's those fish that feed on the coral and then there's fish that feed on those fish and they go, it's that chain, then it doesn't matter what you've done here because if that's gone and all of them have gone, they're going to go. So they're the building block of everything. So that needs to be our main focus. So I think it's double whammy really for me, that.
Have you seen, on that subject, do you know of Counting Coral? It's the founder is a guy, Counting Coral.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay. He's been on the podcast. It's a guy called Jolyon Collier, and he's a Brit. He's an expat that lives in the US, and he was very successful in building houses and construction, that kind of thing. And in his retirement era, he's decided that he needs to bridge the gap between coral growth and restructure, etc., and art, try and make a bit of a niche link to entice, companies to fund restoration of coral reefs. And he's got a massive passion for Fiji. So he's been diving there for 13, 15 years, whatever it is, even more probably. So he took it upon himself, and he builds these, he uses his construction skills and his team to build these structures, which then, when you view them from above the surface and looking down, say, for an example, a drone, it creates this artwork, and the reef itself becomes the artwork design. It's certainly, it's a fantastic thing he's doing, but it's certainly something very, very different. Yeah, actually, might be worth having a look at that for you.
I will definitely have a look at that. Yeah, no, because we
American mag
on that. Well, we have a section in the Australia magazine which is Conservation Corner, which is a focus on things like that, because we've done an article on like the coral gardeners and stuff like that. So I will definitely look him up, because that could fit in there really nice.
Yeah, he's a really nice fellow. I was meant to go out and do because they did their latest build March. In fact, earlier this month. And I was gonna scoot out there and do the videoing for them underwater, because it's all hands on. So they've been trying to record their plantations themselves, but they need the hands to do the work. And unfortunately, time is of the essence, and their window of opportunity reduced so much so that there just wasn't much point in trying to video it. So we'll do it next time. But he's a nice fella, and what he's doing and what his team are doing, I think, is an excellent contribution to what we're talking about. And that,
for sure.
Conservation of the corals. All right. Of the many safety procedures we have in the industry, if you had to choose one as the most important, what would it be?
I will probably say at the moment, which is quite timely given some of the things that have just happened recently, which is probably fire and safety procedures on charter boats and liverboards. Being paramount. I mean, not only that the boat should be up to spec and all the safety things there, but also that the divers that are on are fully aware of it. Because, I mean, I've always been one of these ones where, I listen to the safety briefings rapidly, same as I always do when I'm on a plane, even though I've been on a plane so many times. Every plane's slightly different, so I always make sure I listen to it. Yes, I always think the chances of me ever needing it are minute, but I'd sooner know if it did. And, a number of times I've been on liverboards in the past, and people aren't paying attention to the safety briefings. They're not looking where anything is. They haven't checked anything out. I think maybe people are a lot more aware now, because unfortunately there have been, a few tragic incidents. But I think that's probably a key one. Is just, like I said, one, the boats need to be aware, but the divers need to make it their duty to know where the fire exit is. So it's like, listen to the briefing, make sure the boat has got decent procedures to deal with fire, because at the end of the day, when you're out on a boat in the middle of the sea, you haven't got anywhere to go. Fire on a boat is about the worst thing you could have. But then also take it upon yourself, find where once you're at your cabin, where's the nearest fire exit? How do I get out? What options have I got? I can go that way, I can go that way. What can you do? And I just think people need to be a little bit aware. Like I said, God forbid they ever need it. And, yes, there's been a few high-profile incidences recently, but you look at the amount of liverboards globally, the amount of divers going on boats, it's still a very, very small number. But, never say never. Like I said, always be prepared and never need it. I'd sooner be prepared and never need it than, be in a situation and think, damn, I wish I'd thought about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm of the opinion, you don't want to be world police, but I think there should be there should be something that kind of overlooks or approves boats on their standards of safety, and in recognition of that, they get a stamp of approval from an authority figure that can say, "Hey, this is up to our standards," and that's not to take anything away from the liverboards that. 99% of them do a fantastic job in making sure that they've got all of the safety elements in place. However, to give customers that comfort and surety that an independent body has looked at the operation itself and approved it and given it the rubber stamp, I think is is the way forward. I think we need it now. There's so many boats, like you say, around the world that are providing services, but who's to say that their standards is meeting their safety requirements and meeting the standards?
I have like a standard, because it's like, in one country it might be a SI, another country it might be that I, another country they might have passed everything, but the bar's down here, so it's like, what's it saying? And that's why I say I always take it on the diver, check it yourself, make sure you know where you're going. Don't just rely on them. Yes, they should be doing it, and they probably are. But it's like anything, when you're diving underwater, I'm self-sufficient. I'm not relying on anyone else. You might be diving in a buddy pair, you might be in a group, but you're still doing your own thing. So it's like, be the same on the boat. Be aware, check everything. Better to be safe.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, here's a good one for you. What's your top 5 bucket list destinations?
Well, if I was doing it for like a general bucket list of ones that I would recommend to people, is there's 3 that I've done, but are definitely on my bucket list because I am going back. So one would be Sudan, for sure. One is the Egyptian Red Sea. Like I said, I've been, I think, 83 times now, and I love it. It's still awesome. Every time I go, you see something different. It's just an amazing, amazing place. I mean, we're very lucky in the UK. It's only a 5-hour flight, but I've taken several liveaboard trips where I've chartered the boat in the past and brought friends over from the States. Now, there's aggressor boats there now. There are more Americans are coming over to the Red Sea. But back then, you never saw any Americans out there. It's very rare. But they knew I went all the time, and they all wanted to do it. So when I said, well, if I charter a boat, and they went, well, we'll feel better going with you because you know the area and everything. And they were all blown away. And some of them had flown from LA. But they were all like, oh, it was so worth it, because you've got a mix of everything. There's wrecks there, there's walls, there's fast drift dives, coral gardens, such a mixture of species, as well as the topside culture that you've got as well with the pyramids and the Nile and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I always say Egypt with that. And then the other one is Scapa Flow. Like I said, definitely needs to be on people's bucket list. I've been 9 times, can't wait to go back again. It's just one of those unique places, just getting there. Is an adventure, going across on the ferry and it appearing, and then, like I said, first drop down onto one of them wrecks, and you do feel like you're touching history. So them, those are my 3 bucket list ones for other people, and they're still on my bucket list because I'm going to do them again. But 2 for me that are my bucket list that I haven't done yet is the Socorro Islands and Truk Lagoon. Because Truk Lagoon to me is a bit like Scapa in warm water. So I desperately want to do that. And I don't want to do Galapagos because I've never done Galapagos either. But I keep seeing pictures and stuff from the Socorros, and I know they're known as the Mexican Galapagos anyway, but, seeing like gigantic shoals of silky sharks and just that, is it Rocco Partida that's like the really thin rod, and you just see like mantas going round it. You can get it all in one wide angle shot. Just looks incredible. So I'm like, that's definitely one place that I need to go.
Yeah, that's on my list as well. I've not done Socorro yet. Yeah,
no. The problem is, though, there's so many places. It's like, I'll pin it down. I'll be like, I'm going to go there. And the next thing you see somewhere else and you go, oh, that place looks really good. Like I said, I've been very lucky. I've gone to a lot of places, as I'm sure you have. But then there's always still just as many places that you haven't been that you're like, yeah, I want to go and do that as well.
Yeah. We get them all done. Maybe by the time we're 80.
I was just going to say, it's a good job we can keep diving until we're 80. We might have got around them by then.
Okay, last of the 10. How would you describe the dive community to a non-diver?
I think we even mentioned this before as well. Is that I think of them as like a global tribe is the best way of describing it. Of like-minded people who are all enthusiastic about their activity and everything. And, as we've said before, it doesn't matter if you're a bin man or barrister, if you're 15 or you're 75, male, female, able-bodied, disabled, whatever, and it's just you've got that common theme and bond. And then also I think that a lot of divers are very ocean positive and they're very conscious about the environment and everything as well. So I think we've kind of got a little bit of that way. It's like-minded ocean warriors, if you like. We want to see our seas being as healthy as they can, and like you said, it's just that it's that global bond. You think the diving world's quite small, but like I said, it covers the planet, and then you always feel welcome. I don't think I've ever been anywhere where I felt out of it. You always just get brought into the fold, and I think that's nice. I think it's quite welcoming, that camaraderie.
Yeah. And I love that broad spectrum of people as well. You would never, I mean, even looking around my liveaboard last month for my birthday, you know, everyone's got something in common, that they're my friends. However, they're from such diverse backgrounds and from countries all over the world that you would never get these people around the same table to socialize just because, you know, or under any other circumstance, actually, other than being stuck on a dive boat with muggins here. Yeah. And just having that.
That's right. It brings people from such diverse, like I said, diverse backgrounds, diverse jobs, just, you know, such a blend. You know, and like I said, from people from all over the world. I chartered the Aquacat liveaboard 10, 12 years ago, and just invited a load of friends that were either industry people or just friends that I've met on trips. So it might have just been another punter that was on the boat that I ended up diving with, or I just got on with, that I kept in touch with. So then what I do is, every so often I'll charter a boat somewhere. I'll just send out an invite to, like, you know, 100 people. But like, look, it's first come, first served. There's this many spaces. I'm going on the boat that week. You know, come. And that trip, we had Brits, Americans, Canadians, South Africans. We had Dutch, French. We had a Britalian, as we called him, because he was Italian, but he lives in London. So we used to call him our Britalian. We had an Aussie. We had someone come from Thailand. We had South Africa. I mean, it really was. It was such an eclectic bunch that were on there. The crew loved it, because the crew were so used to, like, 99% of the time, they're just all American divers that go, because it's obviously so close for them, or Europeans. So for them to get just this mix of people that were on there, they were having a whale of a time, because there were so many different diverse characters. It was fantastic. It was like, you know, that boat, if you extrapolated that was the dive industry. You know, how it was, everyone was friendly, all this sort of stuff, and then you could extrapolate out, and it's like, that's what it's like.
Beautiful, beautiful. Happy days. Right, I think we should start winding it up. We've been going a couple of hours now, and I think I need to get down. In fact, I've got to go down the dive store and get a few bits and pieces.
No, that's good. As long as you've got plenty to keep you going there, I think.
Oh, hell yeah. So just the last push there on Scuba Diver magazine. I mean, I subscribe digitally and get the magazine every month. How do people get to the magazine? What's available on offer, and how are they going to get to go to the dive show as well? Yeah,
so basically, as you said, you get digitally. So the magazines are all available, print and digital. So you can go into your local dive store and pick a print copy up. That's the way we try and do it, because we're trying to help the dive store. So if people are going in regularly to pick copies up, it gives the dive store the opportunity to interact with them, you know, whether it's just to have a coffee and a catch up, or, you know, it gives them the opportunity to maybe get them on a trip, sell them some equipment, a course, whatever. But it just gets that regular visit. So that's one way of getting it. If you like the thump of the magazine arriving on your doorstep, you can subscribe to the magazine and have it delivered to you. Or you can go onto our website and you can get the digital version, and that gets delivered to you, obviously, as you get it. You know, you get an email every month letting you know when it's out. The great thing is, if you go on our website, which is just nice and easy, scubadivermag.com, and you go onto there and you go to where the digital magazines are, you'll see all three. So there's the Australian one there, but there's also the UK one, and there's a North American one. So you can actually look at all of them for free digitally. So we find that we have a lot of people that are in one area read the other ones as well, because there's obviously there is still content that might be of interest to them. So you know, I encourage people to go and have an explore, because they're all on there. The websites also are worth a visit, because they're a mine of information. So that's worthwhile for people to go to. And then with the show, for this inaugural show, we are doing free tickets for everybody. So we just want as many people there as we can. So it's free car parking, free tickets to get in. Just, you know, a great day out for all the family. Come meet a load of like-minded people, and let's just try and get, you know, that whole kind of dive festival vibe going. So they can go onto the website again, nice and easy. GoDivingShow.com, dead easy. Yeah. And when you go on that, you'll see there's the UK show and there's the Australia show. And if they click on the Australia show, there's the link then for them to register for their free tickets, and it's as simple as that.
That will close us out for now. And hey, listeners, stay safe, stay having fun, keep getting wet. Ciao for now.